Guys, how professional. Welcome back to another episode of whatever we call this. With me, as always, Adam, save Jara now. Check him out on the Instagram. And Angie Bitter. She's coming back to hang out again. How you doing?
One day at a time.
I should stop asking people that. Um, are you still alive? Are you still breathing? Good enough. Um, so what's the big grievances today? We got plenty to axes to grind. What's the one thing that infuriated you guys this week? And then I'll let you know mine. Angie, since you're going to go soon, what's on your hot plate today?
I have a long list, but I I think there generally has not been a lot of coverage of this. So I think it would be worthwhile for us to briefly, or not briefly, talk about the allegations from the OpenAI founder's sister, Annie Altman, of sexual abuse.
Hmm.
So she's accused, I believe she has been making accusations for years now publicly, but has filed two distinct claims, I believe. One against him with a Sam Altman being the primary person she's accusing, and has also alleged that his brother and the family writ large have been active in silencing her around making accusations of this abuse. And it's just, I think, particularly after the conversation we had last week of the technocratic oligarchy we are entering, it's worth exploring how easy or not easy it'll be to silence a potential victim.
And for those that don't know, Sam Altman, of course, the OpenAI guy, has been in tech circles for a long time. He was, there was a fellow who started Reddit or was one of the founding members of Reddit. His name was Aaron Schwartz. Of course, he killed himself after he downloaded a bunch of documents from MIT, which were open source, and he, was taking terabytes and terabytes of them. Got in a bunch of trouble. The government came after him, and what happened was he basically killed himself after that. Well, he made a warning about Sam Altman. He said, "Look out for this." I'm paraphrasing here. This guy is no good. Watch out. He'll do whatever it takes. He'll say whatever it takes to, be on top. And then a decade later, I think after he died, then he made the big splash with the old Chat GPT stuff. Yeah, just kind of a creepy, greasy kind of long-termist guy. Somebody who thinks we need to sacrifice all the poor people now for a Star Trek future that we might get in the not too distant future. I don't know too much else. I know he's vegan, which brings great shame upon my vegan community. But
it's the same thing as like Israeli troops wearing like vegan leather boots. It's sort of like
and then call Palestinians animals, but right. Not those. We don't save those type of animals. Like, okay,
yeah, making sure that you can get vegan options for your meals, for your meal rations.
Am I incorrect in also recalling that Sam Altman is generally kind of a health and youth freak? Like he's into several of the like cryo fads and is generally about not aging or dying in the near future, which should be a red flag, I think.
I think you're right on that, actually. I mean, that's just been a Silicon Valley. Oh, there he is. Yeah.
There's something in the eyes. Like you can see it's not Botox. It's worse.
He paid someone, some like RFK adjacent like health, guru to inject his face with like toad lactations or something. I don't know. Like there's something, there's like that's been a Silicon Valley thing for a while. But I also want to be clear, there have been articles coming out that have, I don't know why, they're coming from pretty big publications. They get buried for whatever reason. I think it was a New Yorker piece where they detailed how even people within his own circle are like, this guy is not to be trusted. He basically resigned from the board of OpenAI and then appointed for optics and then appointed a shadow board. Like nobody actually trusts him, which, I mean, these guys are the robber barons of our day. I don't see how any of them have integrity. But Angie, specific to Anne, is it Annie Altman? Is her name?
I believe her name is Anne. She
Okay.
goes by Annie on most of her social medias, but Miss Altman, I don't know how professional we want to be here.
Just roast him. Just do whatever.
I don't know how detailed the allegations she's made are. I've not had the time or wherewithal to sit down and read the filings in full, but she's claiming, in addition to just the act occurring and the crime against her, she's claiming that she's sustained great bodily injury. And I believe that she does cite incidences that date back to when she was 4 years old. I don't know the age difference between them exactly, but I believe he's around 12 at the time of the first incident she alleges. So I don't know. I allegedly everything, of course, but I just think it's the first article I was able to find from a pretty credible source detailing the claims she made in court were from January of 2025. So over a year and a half ago now. And I feel like this is only now slowly starting to hit some people's algorithms. And I don't know. It frightens me. And I think it should frighten all of us generally. Because what does this mean for the average victim of a crime? If someone who's, of this stature is no longer able to establish themselves and really gain a physical, visible platform to voice their fear and concern.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's a perfect combination of Jeffrey Epstein and Mark Zuckerberg, right? It's like Mark Zuckerberg and Jeffrey Epstein had a baby, and then they came out. Technically, a technical kind of guy, but still one of these powerful people that even if he did something wrong, he probably did. Even if he did or he didn't, he'll never face accountability because that's the level that he's playing at, especially because he's responsible for so many other people's investments. You have this cloud capital machine, all of this money floating around that nobody can really touch. And until they come along and say, I'm from Stanford and I have a good idea, then they say, okay, here's all the money. And with that investment, they're not going to back off that, especially after the Theranos lady took the cloud capital for all they had and was totally defrauded. I had to give it to Elizabeth Holmes. At least she tried to scam the billionaire class. I was like,
she robbed Henry Kissinger of money. That we need to that alone.
There's something in terms of there's a sliver of Marxist in every in every grifter. There's just like a real sliver.
But I would hope that every creature on Earth should have a little Marxist, yeah.
But even in the last week, OpenAI has failed to meet its projections. It actually took a major tumble in the stock market because it's not hitting the numbers it's supposed to, which it's never going to. It's impossible. All this cloud capital is circular, right? I mean, we all know. We don't need to. Everyone who's watching this and reads our HR news already knows how this is just one big bubble waiting to pop. But I think I saw somewhere that in order for OpenAI to actually generate the revenue it needs to hit 109 million new users by the end of the year, which no, that's impossible. You're asking, that is 1/3 of America all of a sudden becoming paid subscribers of ChatGPT. And for what? But there's something else.
There's free alternatives as well. There's free alternatives,
right. Well, the Chinese, and that's the other thing that's happening with all these American models too, is the API usage on all of these is insane. The Chinese models, it is not even pennies to the dollar. I used, I opened up Claude Cursor one day just to play around and try to build a little game, and within 30 minutes, I used up all my API storage, and then I switched to DeepSeek. And I had weeks until I actually hit the limit. Yeah. It's open source. Like China, in addition to the fact that it has more EV and just renewable infrastructure to have the computing power to run these models, the American ones, again,
it's fun. They call it market distortions too when China subsidizes this stuff, but it's so awesome to see them subsidize. They could subsidize. Already subsidized EVs to a point where they could just obliterate anybody who's doing traditional invisible hand capitalist stuff. Like, and this is no different. So there was a story I found today, which is there was a agentic AI called Manus AI, and it was a thing where you could say it was like ChatGPT, but he'll go on the internet for you and pull pictures and do long research and put scrape the web and find email addresses, do pretty crazy shit. And the Chinese built it. The two guys who invented it wanted to sell it to Meta. Meta said, hey, we want this because American capitalists don't innovate. They just take the money that's there and try to just buy up talent that already exists and then buy their stock back.
Yeah.
So these two guys get in talks to go sell to Meta, escape to Singapore to do it. So because they leave Beijing to go to Singapore, the Beijing government tracks them down, finds them, drags them back to Beijing and says, you're not doing this. You're not selling this to Meta. This is too important. And Meta basically backed out as well and also didn't fight it because they're already losing market share in that region anyway. And so, yeah, like we're on our last leg, even with the AI bubble. Oh, it's going to pop any day now. And this Sam Altman guy, just another wonderful grifter in a sea of, D-bags trying to, huck their and I don't know what are they going to do? They're going to planned obsolescence ChatGPT. So every 10 minutes, it's like, oh yeah, drink Pepsi. What's the plan? How are they going to monetize this? I don't get it.
Well, one of the ways, and I've been thinking about this a lot, one of the ways that I don't know if it's still happening, Sam Altman wanted to innovate was to introduce erotica into ChatGPT's models, where it was like a not safe for work kind of chat, which, I mean, we're talking about a man.
Well, Angie, you heard about the Elon Musk ChatGPT thing was making pedophile material, right? He was making kinky porn.
It's one thing for that stuff to be just like explicitly out there, but it's another for it to be slowly integrated as a like gotcha feature. There's something almost extra insidious about trying to like slip it like, oh no, don't go to our competitors. You can chat, like you can sext with it. And you go to war. Get up. What?
Isn't that's the invisible hand? That's saying we're going to appeal to whatever most primitive impulses you have, and so
the lizard brain of the consumer must be tapped in order for capitalism to innovate.
Yeah,
it's a socialized lizard brain though, because like that wouldn't work if we weren't already such a porn obsessed, like sexified society. To be, it's
that we found out what the market is calling for, and it's calling for longer lasting boners and what's the hair, how to grow your hair back, and
only if you're a guy though.
Right.
Well, what else? And opioids for everybody,
But that's something I've been thinking about lately. Is, I mean, there are studies that show that whenever this sex trade, whatever that entails, whatever you want to call that, whenever that is legalized, the trafficking market expands. It doesn't actually contract. It creates a greater demand for, people who don't want to be in the sex trade to be forced into it. So you wonder, when you have there are other AI websites out there where you can custom design your AI girlfriend with by their ethnicity, by their, their personality. It can be like, oh, have a submissive, Asian trad wife. Literally just peddling the same fetishes that the sex trade has been trafficking in for.
But The kicker is though, does this bring down the cases of rape? Does this bring down all these really horrible people who just can't control their natural impulse? I'm talking about men. 98%
Right.
of all rape is done by men, and people hate this statistic because then they feel automatically guilty, which they should be. Men are terrible. But it's like I don't know. I don't know what.
But that's why when we hear that Sam Altman is accused of literally sexually abusing his younger sister, it's like I don't know, maybe Angie can point to some good, like, I don't know if you know of any critical theorist feminist critiques of the AI ecosystem,
Yeah.
because like
How do
I
you
do.
merge? How do you merge the psychosexual these tech type peoples in the tech landscape that we're in to not go down this road of being totally perverse and yeah, geared towards incels and stuff, satisfying incels.
I'm like, guys, this is
I don't
not.
know.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm afraid this is like there's been so much critical literature, and I wouldn't even call it feminist literature. I really struggle to identify with the concept of feminism and what it's become in like the
Mm.
year 2026. But the amount of literature we have that just understands what the tokenization of womanhood has become and how that tokenization has really just like it cheapens not only women and our experience and our relation to ourselves, but really the male experience more than anything. Because I mean, to put yourself in the position where all the women that you interact with are objects and tokens in your life, even if not in your perspective, but in the perspective of the world around you, is a deeply dehumanizing position to be in. It's to put yourself in a like monopoly position, but for your actual life. You like the capitalist may tell you that that's exactly what you want and that's how you get your maximum gross, but that's not. I mean, the human brain just isn't wired that way. There's a lot of dissonance that's going on that critical scholars, I mean, like Judith Butler covered this. This is in your Fem 101 classes for sure. The idea that, like, the way we see women generally is sexualized. We don't have an alternative for that right now. And the root of all of this isn't tech, I'm afraid, isn't like even really in any of the industries that these people find their home in. It's in sex work.
Mm.
And it's in the way that sex is a commodity and gender is a commodity. Like it's also related to the way that people fetishize transness or like any form of really diverse sexual behavior. It's the same reason I would argue that like polyamory has become very trendy and interesting, and we see all of these women who by their own accounts are being like talked into sharing their partner for which like again I just think all of these things come out of the way that sex and our gender, our personal gender, has been commodified and sold back to us so frequently that we don't know how to engage with sex without consuming it.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
like no, there's no any industry will resort to selling you sex.
Is there any current country or culture that is doing right by women in any, sense? Because I read this book a while back and it was telling me about indigenous cultures where the women were in charge and it had a whole different thing, and that people moved from gender fluidly throughout their life without anybody really causing a big fuss about it, and they would share partners and everything, but they had I forget the thing. It was very interesting. But is there anything that gives you hope now that you say, well, these people aren't perverts?
Well, I mean,
I'm asking Angie.
Listen, I am very fortunate to be surrounded and to come from a culture that, generally speaking, has a level of respect, like across the genders. There, it's not like women are held on an exclusive pedestal within any of the realms of Arab cultures, but I think that there is a more sincere and revered understanding and respect for both the man and the woman. So we absolutely experience gross misogyny and sexism, but I've been fortunate enough to be surrounded by a culture that did not indoctrinate me the same way, and by men who are incredibly thoughtful and incredibly open to guidance when they are not necessarily seeing things. So I'm able to find hope in that. But on a global scale, no, I don't know. I see a generation that is like actively losing the ability to read and going to be reliant on visuals very soon. And I also see a world where the attention span is diminishing in a way that I don't know will be reversible. Like, we can get into my gripes with the public education system everywhere, but like, we are not preparing children for the world anymore. And I'm afraid that what's happening is that everywhere, every industry is going to be appealing to the lowest common denominator.
Yeah, I'm afraid of that too. And I would think we need like a Chinese person to come on and tell us that, well, in China, it's not that bad. Because I have my hopes. Like I was like, tell my wife, just look east if you want any hope at all. But even then, it's like biologically, what are we hardwired to do? The funny thing is, when we deindustrialized our nation, women got more power than men really wanted, because it took away the factory jobs. And now because of the service economy, women are more wanted in service. So to be like the face of something or to serve somebody else, they get jobs easier than men in a lot of cases. There's no good work for big men to do with big machines. And so that age is over. And so there was kind of a power dynamic that changed. And this is one of the reasons I thought maybe the rise of the incel community exists, where they're all these disenfranchised young men that are behind their computers and can't find work, or, but I don't really actually know. I think you're right that the lack of reading is globally. I don't know if it's global, but it's definitely in the West. I don't think that's going to help. And also, like, people aren't fucking anymore. They're just not even interested because for whatever reason, sperm counts are going down from, they don't know, 50% sperm rate reduction since 1970 or something like this. And they think it's because of like PFAS or microplastics or something. But then we're choosing also globally. China's population just peaked. The United States definitely peaked. Europe is going out. Japan's going out. So yeah, there's that on top of it. So it's, do we even need each other, men and women? Are they even interested anymore in being around each other?
I just want to say one thing real quick, which is that in the US, yes, women were ushered into white collar roles with deindustrialization, but in the Soviet Union, women were factory foremen. In the Soviet Union, women were engineers. In the Soviet Union,
Really?
Women actually had a lot of opportunity with the industrialization of the country. Obviously, they couldn't all be, deep in the mines all the time in the same way that men could. But, I think it also depends on how your society is structured. And once the Soviet Union fell, a record number of women were trafficked into sex work, were trafficked into being, like a record number of women.
To Israel.
Yeah, right, or they moved it. Well, it's like an open,
trafficked to Israel from the Soviet Union. The highest number of trafficked women, or the highest proportion of trafficked women in Israel, come from former Soviet nations.
Holy shit.
It's actually an open secret today in Israel that a lot of the people who went to those a lot of people from the former Soviet Union, former communist bloc, aren't even Jewish. Israel just needed them because the economy was in a major slump, birth rates were down, and they needed cheap labor really quickly. And unfortunately, obviously there's always a demand for the sex trade in Israel. So it's just an open secret. I saw a video, even Itamar Ben Gvir saying something like the Like a lot of like all the Russians we have are goyim or something like that. Just in the last couple of days, he said that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Someone in the comments said my aunties worked in the biggest steel factory during communism. That's really cool. But I think.
Oh, please go ahead.
No, go on. I just want to say I think we should be careful of making any broad generalizations about human nature, because I do think that is a pliable, mutable thing that is largely dependent on how the forces of production are organized in your society. Like, it doesn't have to be that we have this gender.
I just hope you're right, but I like to put everything in a nice little box so that I can understand it.
Well, you're about, you come from a more biologically, ecologically oriented viewpoint than me. So
I want to believe most of what humans do are like I could see an animal doing quite easily. I just think of them as chimps.
Well, that we've been so well trained. We really underestimate the level of psychological training that the past 300 years have been.
Yeah, and I can't really speak to the fact that like I know how it goes in other countries other than Europe, Mexico, and the United States.
But I will say, even in the United States, the concept that women dawned upon the workplace is fundamentally untrue, except for white women of a certain class. So it's also, I think, important to contextualize that women have been working and have just had their labor be either unpaid or completely undervalued. Like the work of midwives, I mean, gynecology would not exist and arguably would actually be significantly better if midwives still had been the ones to set it up and lay its foundation. But so much of women's actual moving non-sexual history has been almost erased from our public memory unless we're memorializing a single achievement. We can't see women as having done other things until those rights were given to them by the gracious men of the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, as if women weren't dying the same way that men were, as if the women of poor households, as if Black women whose husbands have been incarcerated at these rates for decades have not been holding up their households in the same ways that men have. So there's a lot of sanitization that has happened around our gender politic that allows us to get to the point where we are hearing good, well-intentioned feminists say things like sex work is just labor. It's like work like any other kind. It just needs to be regulated XYZ. There's so much just sanitization. I think that's the only word that I can use.
Underlying trauma and conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got more examples of communist countries, because you're both making this argument that you change the economic system, you'll have a shot at reversing some of these bad habits.
I mean, yeah, it's proven in the data. I mean, women, same thing with what we were talking about last week with Iran. Women went from being largely illiterate to having some of the higher education rates in the world. And, like what Angie was saying, Black women have been in the workforce literally since the moment they were forced in, they were forced in chains into this country. Like Angela Davis writes about this in, what is it? Women's Empire. What's the name of her thesis? I forget. But she talks about how, Black women have been, even when they were not enslaved, they were then forced into being the help. And even then, they faced high rates of sexual assault from their white employers. It was a rite of passage, unfortunately, for a lot of these rich white men to rape their maids. So
Women, Race, and Class by Angela
yes, thank you. Women, Race, and Class. Yes. So in any history class you take in the U.S., they'll tell you, Rosie the Riveter. It was World War I and II, where women were forced to help the industrial war effort, that women for the first time were able to work, and therefore it brought on a new women's emancipation, blah, blah, blah. It's like Angie said, we're viewing that purely through the scope of white, women's empowerment, which is why I think, Like this critique of sex work is the subject of so much vitriol in the West. Whereas a lot of women I know from like the Swana region, the global South, they see it as they see the sex trade as something that is not so much an individual choice as it is something that in its modern incarnation, especially, is largely just a byproduct of colonialism. Because, you know,
Directly slavery, a lot of the times I've gotten into true fights with people over this, but like even things like surrogacy and the
Mhm.
levels of
Yeah.
I mean, the way you can essentially pay for a child or, outsource the work of pregnancy and labor in our modern society in many ways is rooted in chattel slavery and is rooted in the ways that men and women who were enslaved were forced to procreate based on who their masters thought were going to make the strongest slave, or like those are we have the capability now where wealthy people are able to gene select their kids and we're not tying those things together. I don't know. We're having a very historically detached decade, I think, is ultimately the point, is that all of the technological dam breaking of the 2000s has meant that we have been so inundated that everything feels so new that we're like, this has to be new. We've never done this before.
OnlyFans is a new epoch of women's empowerment.
True. Yeah, I don't know.
I knew a lady that was a surrogate, and she carried it to term, and she needed the cash. I think that's what she did, and then she became hormonal during the whole experience and became so attached to it, and that when she had to give it away, it was very traumatic. She ended up like turning to Jesus and going crazy, and then had like 8 kids of her own, and um, and then now is a Trump supporter. Really, really wild.
Dear Lord.
It's not an experience that the human body and brain are meant to go through in the same way that we're not meant to experience war. Like the human body is not meant to spend 9 months creating a life and then have it given away in exchange for commodity. It's
It's
I don't know.
perverse.
That's really cruel. That's really cruel. There's just no way to slice it.
It's like organ harvesting. It's saying like we're gonna inject you, and then you're gonna have a kidney. We're gonna grow it on you, and then we're gonna come slice it off, and you may or may
And
not survive.
frankly, quite literally organ harvesting, because the way that sperm donation and egg donation is advertised to young women and men, speaking as a former young woman that was in college and was advertised that need help paying your bills on my college campus.
Yeah, and what's crazy is like from the beginning to the end of a woman's life, you are subjugated by this colonialist, patriarchy system where like they know nothing about menopause either. Like you go into the doctor, they have no idea. And I've talked to a lot of women. I'm older now, so I have a lot of talking about this kind of stuff. And no gynecologist from any of my women friends from here, from Europe to America, they don't know. They don't understand hot flashes. They don't understand the mood swings. Like they say, yeah, they're hormonal.
God, we
And
can regrow hair.
for
Everybody
men,
relax. We can
it's all for men. All the pharmacological breakthroughs are for mostly
we
for
can
men.
regrow men, and you can go somewhere in South America where the guy can like break your leg and add 2 inches to your height. That thank God. Thank God. Everyone with PCOS though, just that's nothing for you.
Dude,
You
that's human right there too. I think no, you change the economic system, there still might be guys trying to lengthen their legs and get all ripped and look ridiculous.
Like,
you have to wonder how much of this you can draw a straight line from the eugenics movement to our
yeah.
modern. Like I had a friend who in college who was, I mean, we were all broke in college. He tried to donate sperm and he was rejected. They don't tell you why you're rejected, but he's almost positive it's because on the questionnaire they asked, do you have a family history of schizophrenia? and he said his uncle, like my uncle was also schizophrenic. His uncle was schizophrenic, even though the statistical likelihood of someone whose uncle or aunt, anyone who is not your immediate relative, passing on schizophrenia to you is like incredibly infinitesimally low. He's almost positive that's why he was rejected. It's like,
Well, that's the other thing is like when you are going through that process of a sperm donation or an egg donation, insane amount of trust to put in a healthcare professional in the United States of America. Oh my God. There's been more than enough documented cases of doctors swapping out sperm for their own. That just
What?
Oh, you guys haven't seen there's at least 2 or 3 cases that I think have become really big news across the US in the past 5 years where people are just like by doing DNA tests finding out that they have 40, 50, 60 up to 100 siblings and sometimes within the same like tri-state area your kids are going to school together and meeting each other. Like this is a public health issue.
Dude, I don't know why I'm laughing, but it's just
because
the
it's absurd.
absurdity.
Because it's absurd.
There are
But they
towns
don't
where
tell you
there are
in
towns
that
where like the third of a classroom is just fathered by the same OBGYN.
deranged. So those
There's-
cases
there's-
aside, the parents paying for this process know like they're getting a fact sheet on you as the donor and they're rejecting you on the basis of like didn't go to the college I want, like no Ivies, not me, blonde only. Those are the like we're there.
As if there's like a genetic predisposition to like being able to attend Yale.
The genetic predisposition, mind you, is the last name. Like there is one, but not the one you're thinking of.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's fair. Yeah. Right. There is that's the only biological component.
I was always worried. They always poor people that you make it a racket where you say you can make some extra money if you give your sperm and give your blood and stuff. Then you can get the worst people, poorest people with the worst sperm. You don't want my sperm, but I need the money. Jesus.
Well, it's the same thing with the way that blood banks are intentionally put in America's poorest neighborhoods. It's literally just so they can. I think you only get like $20 or $20 to $50. Like I don't even know what you'd call it, like a pump for donating blood. And even then, you're also asked, as someone who's tried to donate plasma before when he was broke. I think I was disqualified because I was taking an antidepressant at the time, and they were like, "Oh no, sorry." And there may be a real reason for that, but we don't want any sad blood.
Oh my God.
They don't want any stoners either. They don't want anybody smoking grass. God forbid.
Gay men are still banned from.
That's crazy.
They also have to. Aren't they? They're legally required to get tested for HIV every few years, I think, too. Right? Am I making that up?
That sounds
so many in violation of that. I wish they were, frankly, if the enforcement agency was anyone other than the US, I wish they were.
What would you even call that police force, that section of the government?
Same. When I always thought as a kid, they were like, well, they make sodomy illegal. I'm like, who's going to know? Like, who's going to know? And then like there's a special division that comes out. Excuse me, taps on the window. What are you doing in there?
The sodomizing special task force. Or they could call it like Gomorrah, the Sodom and Gomorrah, the SG. I don't know.
Honestly, the thing is that like that enforcement agency, it's one lesbian. Like it really is. It's one strong lesbian. And I don't envy her.
Someone in the comments just put Europe has a yearly testing required, which I mean, we need to be honest with ourselves. Europe, considering the fact like the metro population in Europe, there's that whole song in the Legally Blonde musical called Gay or European.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Like we need to be honest here. Apparently storied users use a lot of Did you guys see, because you said something about speaking about how again that we've just made the global south a hotbed for just the commodification of bodies. Did you guys see that a Hasidic Jewish man from New York who got divorced, went to a matchmaker, then went to Colombia to marry an 18-year-old woman, and then was just recently discovered murdered and dismembered by Colombian gangs when his teen bride left him and said she felt pressure. We shouldn't be laughing.
So what happened exactly? The gangs killed her, or
So the gangs killed
military?
him. The gangs killed
Okay.
him. She was just
After-
like, I feel pressured into doing this. I don't know, because like I guess in the
And you know what? That is more justice than the criminal justice system has ever given a victim in the United States.
Dude,
than any of the passport bros who, that is the
Oh
logical
my
conclusion every passport bro.
the
should-
gangs, dude, the gangs in Haiti are over there giving away toys to the kids and stuff. It's like we need to bring back the gangs the next time that they're talking about the gangs.
Oh, a lot of the gangs
knows how to form a militia anymore.
That's the sad part. That's the sad part. And we need it so bad.
The thing is with gangs, I say this as someone who's, I won't say too much, whose family was, this is the most stereotypical Italian thing I can say, whose family was one of the most powerful mafias in southern Italy. They literally ran the town for decades until the police, because like,
ACAB.
A cop, it's polizei. Or a pab. In these less developed parts of the world, the gangs and the militias and the narcos, they just fill the void that the state leaves. In part because like leftist groups aren't allowed to flourish. During the years of lead, the CIA literally worked with the mafia in Italy to make sure the Communist Party, which was the largest communist party in Western Europe at the time, right across the way from Yugoslavia, they worked with the mafia to keep the communist organizations down. So then you had a situation because the Communist Party was also pretty popular amongst the, really rural, underdeveloped parts of the country, which they're still underdeveloped today. There's a reason a lot of Southern Italians are in, the U.S. and not Italy still. You had a situation where the forces that would have come in there to industrialize or develop or create a better life were just filled by gangs. And that's the same thing happening in Haiti right now. And also, Haiti is also a whole other situation because, the gangs are being funded by the U.S. to make sure Haiti is a fractured. I mean, I think I forget who said that the West has never forgiven Haiti for its revolution, which I think,
I did a whole thing about Haiti a little while back. They got their independence and they had to pay for it, and then they were in debt for like 100 years. And then the United States moved in, changed their constitution to make it so they could funnel money through real estate right to New York, and then gave birth to like a few oligarchs who run everything now. One of those is Gilbert Biggio and the Biggio family, who run like almost everything. And then they also have people, they're in bed with the gangs, and he's like helping them get gun shipments into the country and shit. And he's a Zionist Israeli guy to boot. So there you go.
I mean, that's the prerequisite. If you're going to get support from the U.S., if you're going to be a puppet, you need to sign the same loyalty oath that, public employees in Texas do, that you will never boycott or speak out.
We started the conversation by saying that drugs are a good way to fund the a thing, and that an organization, and like that's true about the Weatherman Underground. It's true, maybe allegedly, about Venezuela.
Wait, what did the Weatherman Underground have to do with drugs? This is news to me.
Oh, they did they robbed banks. I guess that's different. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But they robbed banks to fund their activities. So did some of the Panthers, right? And the other. What was the other liberation group they were always in?
Brown Berets, AIM, but I don't think they ever did any.
It was like they both, the COINTELPRO, they planted stories in the newspapers to like pit them against each other. And I forgot the two.
That's not happening today at all.
Yeah.
But to tie it back to the region too, that's also been a point for, Lebanon and Syria allegedly is like al-Shara is coming in and cracking down on the drug smuggling operations. And that's
Yeah, what's going on over there, Angie? What's the mafia like in here?
Yesterday or today, I believe, the trials started for former regime officials that are like they're trying them, but they have not established a court or a transitional justice setup or a timeline or like a broader vision for what transitional justice will be like. So, and everyone who is in prison in Syria now, like they're in the same prisons they were in before. So, like nothing has
except ISIS.
Thank you for that correction. You're right.
Where's ISIS? They're on the loose, being funded by the
they're
US?
free. All the Al Qaeda people, who by and large were the people who were actually tortured under Assad, and like it was the like head chopping militants and their sympathizers. But that's sorry, continue. I didn't mean to.
Okay, go ahead, go on.
I mean, it's nothing has changed, but like the watchkeeper, I would say, in Syria. The only difference is who is in charge and how much they're willing to sell out, which is a lot more. A lot more. Yeah, I don't know. People are definitely hitting the point where they're realizing, I think in Syria, like, oh, maybe this isn't better, actually. But I've not had a chance. It's been a hectic weekend for me, so I've not had a chance actually to follow up on the first day of trial. But I imagine that it'll be kind of a farce. Again, there's been no real actual steps towards making any transitional plan for Syria, making a real pathway for elections or setting up even an interim election. Just to, like there's been nothing to signal good faith. So it's hard for me to, even in my like most liberal interpretation, to see this as anything other than kind of a way to keep the Syrian people busy and make them feel like something got done about those of them that suffered under Assad directly. And it's fine. It's fine that Israel has the South, guys. It's fine. We're not worried.
The blessed revolution marches on. Well, didn't they also... I saw two things that I thought were interesting this past week. One was from a Kurdish publication that said that a lot of the same oligarchs that did business with the Assad administration are also doing business with the al-Shara. I don't know what you would call it, a government.
Regime. I like to particularly use the word regime.
Regime.
Okay,
a regime. And then also they've officially... they're trying Assad in absentia as well, which, I mean... France is trying in
absentia, thank God.
France, who literally did business with ISIS. He looks so silly. Like, the way he's just trying so hard to not look like an Al-Qaeda militant. Well, like...
Are we roasting him? He looks like a UFC fighter that they just painted a suit on.
He kills me. He looks it's so uncomfortable to see him. He definitely wants to be there, but it's so unnatural for him. Like he just wants to mask off, you know? He's like, I never had to play nice before, and now they're making me like...
Well, he also has to talk to a woman. He has to like make direct eye contact with a woman without like averting his gaze in the way that, you know.
I have to be honest. I don't know how much of that is really him and how much of it is just like
political.
The radicalization. Like if we go based on how Idlib was run, absolutely. But I don't... He feels like such an empty vessel to me that I don't know, the concept of him having any structured ideology or...
I mean, right? I mean, how many of these guys like did Hermann Göring and Adolf Hitler, were they really think that Jews could like infect your body or do all these magical things that they could do? Or was it just a political tool to... Some of them did. Some of them did believe it. But then some of them just went, yeah, this works. Let's just do this. I know Goebbels dated a Jewish girl. That probably pissed him off.
Well, I mean, none of them were actually. They were all pretty like, but in terms of like Angie said, how Idlib was run. These guys. I mean, I feel like your rank and file HTS and all the to go earlier, the paramilitaries who are running the like villages and towns outside of Damascus. They've all drank the the
Oh,
Salafi Kool-Aid. I feel they're
from direct experiences, like even prior to the war, there were areas where this ideology was still very much present. And I will say, like, my family is from Hama. The Hama massacre is remembered very differently by different people. It's known as a massacre, but there's a lot of historical context around who was being targeted and why things escalated to the level that they did. And it was because the former Assad was trying to root out Muslim Brotherhood within Syria, which is, I mean, Hama is also this kind of like bridge point. It's surrounding many Christian villages and also right on the brink of Wadi Nasara, the Valley of the Christians, which is just almost like a row of several Christian villages that date back thousands of years. So this is not something that's necessarily new. This is the radical ideology of the region that has been injected into the country in the past to create instability and to create violence. And the responses to it have been brutal and have been overtly violent towards the population. They have been overkills, no doubt. But this is the pendulum swinging the other way. Like, rather than addressing anything that was actually being injected into Syria and removing it prior to the removal of Assad, we put ourselves in a situation where the very radical violent ideology that Bashar al-Assad was working overtime to eradicate has now become the one in power. And we deluded ourselves for quite a while into thinking that was better, or better, devil we know, I don't know how that calculus worked for people, but I'm not sure where
How many players are we talking about? Of course, you have Assad's dad, and then you have Assad Jr., and then you have the Muslim Brotherhood, and then you have this fella here with the funny look with the big ears. So
you also have Turkey, the UAE, Qatar.
The Kurds.
Depending on the year in the actual civil war, there were prominent individual figures because so much of the early paramilitaries or the Free Syrian Army, so many of them were defectors from the regime and from the army itself, from the Syrian army. So there were other moving parts. There were moderates, what you would call moderates on the spectrum of Assad and ISIS. There were a lot of people and remain a lot of people in the middle. I would argue the journalists and human rights activists that ran the Syria Justice and Accountability Center were stand-up people, continue to be. They recently, I don't know if they published a report or if they're about to, with the Tahrir Institute for Middle East Policy. So they're still actively doing work on Syria and are much, much more measured and much more realistic about what's going on and the actual kind of dynamics of ideology and culture that are going to play out. But in terms of the players being very instrumental, I don't think Assad has any. I think he's gone. I think he's we're safe, guys.
Yeah.
But so I want to be, just so everybody who's listening and knows, I want to just clarify one thing you said earlier. When you talk about the Hama massacre, that is the massacre that when anybody who wants to talk about how Shara Jalani is the true friend of Palestine, the first Damascus, then Jerusalem crowd, they will tell you that Assad marched into the refugee camps in Hama and just blindly massacred the Palestinians who were there. Is that true? Am I remembering that correctly? That's the account that
This I believe it's a different instance actually.
Okay.
No, he went for Syrians.
Yeah.
I won't sugarcoat it. He was targeting Syrians that were involved with the Muslim Brotherhood and who had been conspiring to essentially stage a coup. This is Hafiz al-Assad, the former. This is in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
You're thinking of Yarmouk.
Thank you. Yes, Yarmouk.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember.
Which,
Yes.
like, Assad sucks, guys. Assad sucked a lot. He didn't have good military strategy. He did not want to lead that country. He was forced into that position because his brother died. Like, that was just it. So I will not defend his decisions and the way that he decided to operate in different situations, but I won't ignore his opponents either, you know? If you're, I won't say defending your community, but if you are the last thing standing between ISIS or anything that resembles it, it is not far from the imagination that you would be throwing everything you have at it.
Mm.
Yeah, I didn't. I know a shameful little amount about him. The only thing I knew about him that he was a big fan of ELO, the Electric Light Orchestra. That was his favorite band, and that's the only thing about Assad that I knew up until now.
Well, we didn't. Yeah. Sorry, go on. Keep going.
No, his wife had great PR. His wife did great PR work. She, robbed everyone blind, but they paid their dues. Anytime there was a religious holiday in any sect, they visited a church or a masjid or anywhere. Like, they went and they publicly attended. They frequently donated to areas that were, if I remember the earthquakes in particular, they visited many of the villages and donated to them. They directed funds towards schools that were hit during points of the war. They had good PR with the Syrian people. There are still, maybe not now because of a lot of what came out after they left, but up until the moment that they left Syria, Asma al-Assad had fans. Like, people revered her. Particularly, she went through cancer while he was in office and the war was going on. Like, people really, really held a type of kind of measured respect for them, even just for like sticking it out and staying. No one liked them. No one particularly wanted, if everyone could have voted one day and it would have been fine and fixed the next day, no one would have elected to keep him in power. But there was I don't know, like.
That's her.
That's her.
So I just have one last question. I have to go soon, Angie. But was Hafez, objectively speaking, a better leader than his successor's son, or was it really just Bashar was in the wrong place at the wrong time? Was there any?
To be honest,
Okay.
I would say yes, because I think that Hafiz generally had direction and had much more political understanding and savvy. The comment that someone just posted is very relevant. Assad should have stepped aside to someone more capable when he defeated ISIL in the last war. Objectively, yeah. Frankly, the way that everything played out, Assad should have stepped down in 2012. He should have stepped down in 2013, and we would have all been better off for it, or we would have ended up in the same position faster. So, I don't know, and I don't know that I care much, but Hafiz had a much more tangible understanding of who and what he was up against, and what I think it meant to organize politically, what it meant to state building. He had a real understanding of the dynamics of state building, of what it meant to establish sovereignty and build state networks and build infrastructure. Even if he didn't do it perfectly, and even if he definitely did it with interests in mind, he was much more informed by that perspective and by kind of the general wave of Arab nationalism. So it was just a time where political ideology was more tangible. And I think Bashar al-Assad comes in, he's already not a politician, he's not a statesman. just period. And then we're also
He's my
in this
doctor, right?
allegedly a great eye doctor. But like he's not a statesman. He's not a trained statesman. I argue generally, like even within the United States, where they tell you like any profession can run for president, like you need to be a statesman. You need to understand statecraft and warcraft and what it means to be a actor, like a macro actor in the global stage. He did not have that. He had this awareness of like danger, and he had strategists in his ear, and we were in like this kind of regional drought for real like grounded revolutionary politics in the Middle East. Like I can't point to Muhammad al-Kurd is great because he speaks directly to the people, but I struggle to think of him as like a revolutionary thinker that is necessarily giving us new theory or new things to engage with. Like when was the last time we had a real revolutionary thinker across the Middle East to give us something to imagine? So he's entering into this context that's relatively bleak to begin with. And the only pro he has going for him is that Syria is doing well economically and has resources. So he makes some like maybe good decisions in another country, but shit decisions in the Middle East, allows himself to liberalize a little bit, and then gets beat for it. I don't know what else to say.
Towards the end, like, I mean, the protests were first spurred by a downturn in Syria's economy, right? It was
general corruption and repression. But I mean, we didn't know what the hell we were talking about.
Okay.
I mean, people have kind of alluded to this. I know that a few Palestinian speakers and scholars have talked about Syria kind of being the best of the worst, and like no one was good for Palestinian refugees across the Middle East, but Syria gave the most of everyone. And I think that was the case in most realms. Like none of the Middle East is particularly known for not being politically repressive. But Syria, every government worker was getting their wage paid and raising their families and building their houses and still having money left over to go on trips and like see their favorite singer live in concert once or twice a year. We definitely had a perspective shift. The Arab Spring is still like a context that we often divorce from Syria's civil war because it feels so different, like separate from it. But there was like a spark of wanting to change something and feeling like maybe they could. And the things that they really wanted to change were policy shifts, not coup. Like it was different. And people, again, no revolutionary foundation, no actual grounded theory for what that revolution would look like, aside from that they wanted it to happen.
Well, yeah, and Patrick Higgins always frames Syria at the time of the Arab Spring as the last bastion of that revolutionary Arab socialism that swept through the region in the 60s. It was the last Ba'athist state. Yes, we're live, Shima. It was the last Ba'athist state that actually, had this Arab socialist model where, there were institutions that provided for the people and there was a social safety net. Whereas, I mean, by that time, Egypt had normalized. The days of Nasser were long since dead and buried. It had normalized with Israel. It had liberalized its economy. Iraq had been overthrown by the United States. I mean, not that Saddam Hussein and the Assads were ever like, chummy with one another.
What was Saddam Hussein related to this party at all? The Ba'ath Party? Is there any connection there?
Yeah.
Why do I think that there's a connection?
Okay, use the bath of Iraq. We like to have everyone gets one. Everybody gets a bath.
It's Oprah's, just out here giving baths.
You get a bath.
It's the same party in name, but slightly. I mean, I actually don't know as much political intricacy when it comes to Iraq, but it's effectively the same party in name. There is a lot of ties, but no one gets along because that would be
Uh,
too
okay.
easy. It was all economic interest for a very long time because the Middle East was put in a position post independence where, I mean, you've got boundaries that you've never really observed or had before, and you're suddenly trying to like establish resourcefulness and productivity. So you're put in this position where it's like, okay, we have to play nice to make money with each other, but you're doing things I really disagree with right now.
Yeah. That's the geopolitics in a nutshell. What are the major industries in Syria? What's hot?
Everything. I mean, people really forget that even within the Ottoman Empire, like the Levant was the golden age of the golden age. Everything. I mean, textiles, mosaic, like actual tile, glass production, anything that was that kind of like industrial. Aleppo was a really, really large industrial city that saw a lot of just incredible artisan work and down to soap. Like the first bar of soap comes from Aleppo, Syria, and is still like that
Ah,
same factory is making soap out of gar and like cutting them in the same ways that they would with the threads and everything. That like it is kind of all of the most ancient industries that you can imagine. This isn't even kind of touching the farming and general like ecology of Syria, where I mean the four seasons are very distinct, but you're also getting kind of the um peak production seasons, or oh God, what is the word I want? It's like in my brain in Arabic, but I can only ever have one language at a time. Like the season it's ripe.
oh
I'm
yeah.
sure. I'm sure. To be fair, I'm sure it's much deeper and like has like an entire sentence's worth of meaning in Arabic, whereas in English it's just like.
No, it's definitely like it's very straightforward. It just I mean Syria's able the production and the quality of produce prior to the amount of war that we saw and are seeing because production is still down terribly due to the war
Mm,
was incredible. I mean, like Cradle of Life is not very it's not enough because I think that Syria was directly targeted throughout its history for its abundance to the point that I remember I think it's Philip Khouri's a brief history of the Syrian Mandate, where he looks directly at the notes of French overseers of Syria, and they're very explicit on like we're here to extract. Like we do not
mm.
care about doing any development or being here long term. Like we're here to extract. Syria was always this. I don't know.
So, but was it a command economy under Ba'athist rule? Were there like 5 year plans for development, or was it just so robust
Good
already
good
that?
question. Good question.
Truly. So towards the end, yes, there were. I
Mm,
don't know what it looked like throughout the entirety of or the entirety of the Bas, because under Hafez, I think that he was a little bit more impulsive per se. I think that he was much more 1 year at a time. It was also just a time where like I don't know, they hit 6 coups in a very short period of time. At one point, so they were
Wow.
it was much more like, will I be in power next year, and less how will the Dow go up?
Wow.
You know, towards the end, I remember distinctly there were a lot of targets that were related to women, that were related to children, and generally, like it was particularly Esma al-Assad, the first lady. She initiated many direct projects and plans that were set to work on increasing literacy, increasing the presence of women in the workforce, which were already like not particularly low for the region.
Mhm, mhm,
Um, I don't know. Education in Syria was always pretty decent. The downfall of it has been really shocking to see in the past 5 years, especially. Like schools really held on throughout the war, but
mm.
the sanctions and just the current war have been just a catastrophe. I'm not sure.
Hmm. Well, now they're rewriting textbooks under the Jolani regime to, I forget
Books
what
that
it
are
said.
now like not secular. The faith
Hmm.
is like the Muslim faith, and I should be specific that like the Salafi interpretation of the Muslim faith is being taught in
And
public
it's not
schools.
even what every Sunni Syrian,
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
grew up with. Most of them didn't, actually. I remember Lindsay Snell actually said, because Lindsay Snell, for those of you who don't know, was a German journalist who went to Syria. And she, at one point, was held in captivity by, I forget if it was ISIS or if it was
It
HTS. I
was
think it might have been,
HTS. It
it was
was
HTS.
in fact HTS.
There you go. It was HTS, the
Like
current.
the current governing party.
And she said that she was guarded by foreign fighters in her time in captivity because they trusted the foreign fighters who gave their life, who pledged their lives to this jihad, quote unquote, that HTS was waging more than the, native Syrian fighters who took up arms. They trusted these guys who fled from, like the Caucasus and Egypt and, Qatar and Saudi. They trusted them, and America. They trusted them more than they trusted the Syrians to guard the, foreigners, because they were like, these guys are the real ones who are devoted to our cause. What does that say if this is a Syrian revolution?
Syria was not like that conservative. This will probably be the last thing that I have time for, but like Syria, I swear to God, I never saw head to toe coverings outside of like a particularly like if we were passing a religious gathering on like a holiday or a religious day, that just wasn't present in the religious or social culture of Syria. The majority of Muslim women that I knew, even now, Syrian Muslim women, it really is like a 50-50 toss whether or not they will choose to wear the hijab at any point of their life, which I think is kind of like that's just the case for most Muslim women. Like I as far like as recently rather as 2024, I was in that country wearing short skirts and shorts and tank tops and like not fearing for my life. I would not go and dress that way now.
Wow.
So I don't know.
Someone in the chat just said that you should go back to Syria and run for president.
I'm too scared to go anywhere
Yeah.
borders at the moment.
Good way to get decapitated, Adam.
Hey, it's not me. It's Todd N4X8V. I think he also said that this woman is very smart, and this woman very smart and knows a lot about Syria politics.
Yeah, I'm sitting here actually learning quite a bit. I did not know that. When I get silent, that's when I'm like, I'm taking notes. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, look, y'all, we'll let you go. Will you come back and do it again?
Absolutely.
You are such a wonderful human being to listen to, and I love to learn. So they say if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. I'm in the right room, guys. I feel good about it.
If Angie's in the room, you can guarantee you're not. No one else is the smartest person in the room. If Angie's in the room, you never have to. I've never had the problem of being the smartest person in the room, but especially if I'm in the room with Angie, I know I'm not.
I do a very good job of making myself look a fool in other ways. So please, thank you all. That's very sweet.
Well, come back and do it anytime. Leave anytime, whenever you got to go. I don't know what you got going on. You're going to feed your cat or something exciting, I hope.
Oh, unfortunately, I'm off for family business now, but I appreciate the opportunity. I'll see you guys soon, I hope.
Everybody says much love. Thank you, Angie. This is nice
Bye.
chat today.
Favorite.
Ciao.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate when you look at. I know people who are in Damascus now, and they're saying that because this is standard practice in Saudi and other, more conservative Gulf monarchies, if you are walking around with someone of the opposite sex or you are not married to, the police will stop and ask you, like, why are you with them? Like, I don't see a wedding ring. Like, who is this man you're walking with? Now they're doing the same thing in Damascus, I say that is because it is the only place where HTS actually has a stronghold. It is the only place that has a government, for lack of a better term. There was actually a lot of hope because these sanctions, a lot of government salaries were not being paid. A lot of civil servants were just not getting their paychecks on time, if they were getting them at all. That hasn't really improved after Shara took power. Jelani al-Shara, whatever you want to call him.
Well, does he have any? She was talking about being a statesman and stuff. Does this guy have any, like, what's he running on exactly? What's his whole thing?
So here's the thing. The HTS ran Idlib. They captured Idlib from Assad. And it's so interesting when you read articles from that time, they will admit that they knew that they were not popular there. They admit that they understood that this population was not used to getting this, compulsory Islamism, this compulsory Salafi vision where, women aren't allowed to leave the house with the man who's not their spouse. They have to cover up at all times, or at least even if you're not, they have to pay the jizya, I forget, the tax that non-Muslims have to pay. That is the only experience this man has with governance. He has been, groomed by MI6, by the CIA. He's been prepared for this for a while, and the Qataris, especially. Qatar more or less directly funded them, and Turkey. He has been. I think what Angie said was so poignant, where he's just this vessel. Like he was chosen because he could just be enough of a formable, pliable guy where we'll put a suit and tie on him, we'll trim his beard a little bit, we'll give him some slicked back hair.
I feel like that in that case, he seems like Millet to me, which Millet was the perfect guy after being indebted to the IMF for years and years and years, since like the 70s or something. And then, go through some Kirchner, they tried to kill Kirchner, didn't work out. Yeah. And then they put Millet in, and he's perfect. And he makes all these austerity cuts, and then says, "Give me some more of that IMF money." And says, "We want the dollar." I'm like, okay.
Here, we'll give you some beef in exchange. What could go wrong if American beef imports surge in a country where the half of the country, like the middle part of the country, is mostly just cattle farms? And it's so interesting because when you look at what's happening in the Sahel too, it's the exact same playbook where the U.S. is just like, let's use Al-Qaeda, literally fucking Al-Qaeda. Let's use
what's the latest? What's the latest from that? Tell the people what the latest is with the Sahels.
So there was an assassination official in Mali. For everybody who doesn't know, the AES, the Allegiance of Eastern Sahel States, they are a sovereign movement that have been instrumental. They've led what is more or less what can only be described as a revolution against foreign capital in their country. They have kicked out the French, who were still there as a form of colonialism. They kicked out neo-colonial NGOs. They kicked out neo-colonial oligarchs, and they are now nationalizing resources and building up their countries. It's Mali, it's Burkina Faso. Like the leader of Burkina Faso was literally a disciple of Thomas Sankara, to give you an idea of what's happening here. And the US is obviously against that. So they are trying their best to arm Al-Qaeda, because that's the other thing is all these countries face terrorism problems. And that's what the regimes of old were doing, is they were weaponizing this terrorist threat to consolidate their own power. They could have definitively eliminated the Al-Qaeda affiliates in their country, but they didn't want to, because this is how, there he is. I won't try to pronounce his name.
Ibrahim Traore.
Traore, yeah, I'm just worried about mispronouncing it. So, they're actually taking a firm stance against these terrorist groups, but the U.S. is trying to make sure that doesn't happen, and France, we need to be honest here. So I think, and this is also something that's happening now, is there is a unified military response from the AES against this threat to Mali, because they do want to try to take over Mali. I mean,
I heard Russian troops are down there fighting off this insurgency to back which one? Was it Mali? Mali's the one that killed the defense minister.
Yeah, Mali. Yeah, they are. Yeah. And I think I was listening to a podcast. Everyone should listen to it. It's the Journal of International Solidarity. They do a great episode. I think it was just dropped in the last few days about AES. And this woman who is living there, she said, like, look, there are all this, for every, like, especially Western NGO liberal type who complains about these states aligning with China and Russia. It's like, do you guys know what colonialism actually looks like? Do you know what Western Europe has actually done to Africa?
It's just under the lack of being able to logically prioritize well, like who's the biggest threat on earth, and your eyes are on the wrong thing.
Yeah. Right. And I think, that's the main issue. Sorry, hold on. That's the main issue with all the people who go to the room. Sorry, my dog's.
Hey, puppy.
My dog's barking. She wants to get in with her mom. That's the main problem, I think, that we're getting when we talk about China, when we talk about Russia. I don't know if these people who are sitting on the sidelines want these states to wait for the morally perfect actor to emerge and, ally with these states. I don't understand that is something like what Danny's talking about. Is it's not enough to have good politics. You have to be a savvy politician. You have to be a good statesman. And I mean, like, I remember reading a really good article that made the case that the reason that Trotsky and Bukharin fell to Stalin, it's not because, they were like theoretically weaker per se. It's just Stalin was a better politician than them. Stalin was better at maneuvering through the art of statecraft. And unless there's a quote that I keep seeing online, which is like, fools study strategy, wise men study logistics. And it's, like, that's exactly what the AES is all about. They understand Russia is Russia is the only counterpoint to American hegemony in that region. And China, China's far more hands off. I think you guys have written about it before, just the way that Chinese debt traps are framed in Africa is just so disingenuous. Yeah. That's not to say that. Oh no, go on.
That was one of the realms of my expertise, was knowing that what China is actually doing down there rather than what they say they're doing down there, which the money that they're lending them is for specific projects, not just willy-nilly. And they are forgiving a lot of the debt as well, seeking soft power. And sure, I've seen videos of them abusing workers in some situations, but these individual anecdotal things don't really. I'm more interested in the system, the data, the overarching, view of it. And they're just not doing what they say they're doing. And then the IMF. And so there was a think tank from Australia that had this study that came out that said, all of Africa's debt is owned by China. If all the countries in the world, it's owned by China. Well, the thing is, they don't count the Western bilateral creditors because they're not the government. Right. China, the Chinese government lends this money out. In the United States, it's all secondary, third party, organizations, institutions, not the government per se, banks, things like this, the IMF. And so it was just, so sly that this think tank put out this piece saying, see, Chinese debt traps, very scary.
Well, Australia's think tanks are also all funded by weapons companies, just like the U.S. think tanks are. Like, when you look at who's on the board of these Chinese think tanks, it's like, Northrop Grumman and, Lockheed Martin and like all the usual suspects. Yeah. And I think that's the other thing that people miss is the way debt is actually structured in like the IMF and in the West. It is meant to be a debt trap. It is meant to keep these countries subservient and underdeveloped. Whereas, there's what's the African leader who says every time the West visits, we get a lecture. Every time China visits, we get a hospital. Like, it's just like one of the African leaders said that. I forget which one, but it's true. It's, again, if you are waiting for the morally perfect situation where a small country that has been systemically underdeveloped for years can just emerge out of the pipeline without any alliances from any state that you have qualms with,
Yeah.
good luck waiting for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
think that any state, any smaller state can emerge anywhere without some kind of assistance from another state.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean it's automatically imperialism or colonialism.
No, but you're negotiating the other powers at play, which you
Right.
have to do. It's like trying to say, I'm not going to breathe the air in the room. I'm just going to find a different way to live.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's you have to negotiate with what's around you, your environment, and that includes everybody else. But yeah, it doesn't mean you have to be subservient, but you could find a new way. I was watching Delcy Rodriguez get really nervous at this when she just had this meeting with the people. They come and they all shake hands, and then she's fidgeting with her hands, being like, I can't tell if she's outsmarted them and said, I'm just going to wait out Trump and see when he dies, and then everything, then they'll have built infrastructure and we'll just keep it, and we'll make some money and we'll be the new Saudi Arabia. Or is she like, I better just do what they say because I could be next,
From what I understanding of all of the, Chavistas that I know in Venezuela, this is the only option that the Bolivarian Revolution has. And I mean, the thing is, the deal that they're negotiating now is one that Maduro was willing to do with the US.
Really?
It's more or less like just being able to like they said, we will sell you our oil. That's fine. Just let us. And for whatever reason, I don't understand, because Maduro has been swapped out, but a lot of the structures of the Bolivarian Revolution, I think the latter assessment you gave is the more accurate one, or the former one is the more accurate one. Like, I do think that they're just trying to buy time and see what they can get from the US. Because I mean, I think the US also realizes that none of the opposition leaders have enough popular support for them to just do a full coup. Because they tried that during the first Trump administration. Like, they tried to, when they just unilaterally declared Juan Guaido the rightful president of Venezuela. And then the second he landed in Venezuela, he got his ass beat by a bunch of like,
Good.
just
I think that I wasn't even paying attention at the time, and I just said, they can't decide who's president down here, I guess. According to the media, they just don't know.
But then when they did that, they also tried to assassinate Maduro. There was like, that moment where a drone exploded in the middle of one of his speeches and it missed. And according to John Bolton's book, event that he, authored after he was ousted from the White House, the whole operation stopped because it got too complicated and Trump got bored, which, I mean, tracks. He doesn't have the attention span to be a historical actor. But I think the reason why, like what you were saying last week, the reason why he even went to war with Iran is because the operation to just snatch Maduro was such a resounding success. But in terms of the long-term changes it's made to Venezuela's political economy, I'd have to follow up with the people I know in Venezuela, because I just feel like there hasn't been much of a. I think Delcy Rodriguez is very nervous. I think she knows she's walking a tightrope right now, but
get some Venezuelan friends on. If you or somebody you love knows a Venezuelan, send them our way. We'll take all the Chavistas we can get on the show, have them on next week or something. Yeah, I don't really know. I think could be a combination of anything. They didn't really win, but they did a nice pivot, and I don't want to. I know everybody's mad. I've read comments where the Venezuelans, are mad, but I don't know.
I mean, I take the Venezuelans outside of Venezuela.
No. This was like from people from Vino Analysis and the other one.
Yeah. They're mad at Delcy Rodriguez, or
yeah, they're our comrades. These people are.
No, I know. I know them. Yeah, they're They're good
But
people.
they would say they're confused. They think that she's been sold out, and I think, well, maybe she's playing a game. Like you just gotta stand and watch.
I think, in any revolutionary situation, it's what Lenin, he literally wrote that book, One Step Forward, Two Steps Back. It's that to preserve your revolution, you need to make tactical, strategic retreats
Hmm.
sometimes, whether it's cutting a deal with Imperial Germany or, introducing a controlled form of capitalism to jumpstart your economy with a new economic plan, or dealing with the United States. Like there are things you have to do. There are compromises you have to make when you are in these positions of power in order to just make sure your entire project doesn't fall apart.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
And
was
I
I posted something about this today. It's like the what with these capitalist communist countries always under siege, that we're shocked at their behavior. You know
yeah,
that they absolutely need to do what they do to survive. Right.
right, right. And my friend, one of my good friends, is doing a deep dive into the Korean War right now. And the way
Hmm.
we're taught about that is just total horseshit. Like we're taught, oh, the Korean War happened because Stalin wanted to dominate the world, so he installed the Kim dynasty, and then Korea was a happy joy place until that, and the U.S. No, what happened was that neither Mao nor Stalin were particularly keen on getting involved in Korea, but eventually, you know, their hands were forced when the US got involved in Korea. And Mao is over here looking at the entire force of Western imperialism on its doorstep. And he goes, "Ooh, I don't like that. I think I need to do something to make sure they don't keep." Oh, well, General MacArthur is literally pleading with Woodrow Wilson to nuke China. Like pleading with them to just launch an atomic strike on the People's Republic, the nascent People's Republic. Like there's situations that I think in the West, self-proclaimed revolutionaries cannot grasp because they've never been in a position where they have to make difficult decisions.
Yeah. What
Thankfully,
What do you think? What do you think? How did it start before the U.S. got involved in Korea? What was the thing that happened?
so everybody here should listen to Blowback. I think their third season is dedicated to the Korean War, and it's fantastic. It's a great listen. But my understanding is that Japan occupies Korea. It's liberated, but a lot of the same landlord class that was in power before the Japanese invaded is still in power. So
Hmm.
then the communists start gaining more popularity in these more rural and underdeveloped parts of the country, and then they start winning battles. They start, taking over towns and villages and restructuring, sort of like what China did. They execute the landlords. They restructure society entirely. It's very popular. It's very popular amongst the
I like
people.
how you said that. I like it. And they his landlords.
Well, I don't want to get your channel banned. I'm just stating
Yeah,
historical facts, people.
yep.
And then, again, the US is looking at this with a very nervous frenzy because it's the height of the domino theory where they're like, oh God, the more countries fall to communism, the less of an influence we will have. And this is what everybody forgets, is in large parts of the world where fascism or some variation of fascism took power, it was the communists who beat them when the US. Well, no, I don't even say that. The Soviet Union more or less single-handedly defeated Nazi Germany. Not
100 million
completely
troops.
single,
100 million
right?
troops
Like,
died.
and 1 in 10, a conservative estimate says 1 in 10 Soviets died from this war. It was a genocidal war. Hitler wanted to enslave the population to Great Lebensraum, and the Japanese were no different. They more or less enslaved every country that they occupied. Um, and there was one little anecdote my friend told me about. He said that when the Americans came to Korea, not a single person in the American army spoke Korean, and no Koreans spoke English. So in all the towns that they took over, they were in the very awkward position of reinstating the Japanese civil servants that they had ousted, because Japan Japanese was the only common tongue. So they had to just reinstate the Japanese because that they spoke Korean and no American did at the time. Uh, but and this is what I thought was most interesting as I studied more about Korea myself is until the Soviet Union fell, North Korea was more developed than the South was. It had a stronger and more robust economy. And frankly, more people enjoyed living there because there were greater worker protections. There was still political repression, of course, but in terms of your quality of life, it was higher in North Korea until the Soviet Union fell and imports, crude imports completely collapsed almost overnight. And then the country was thrown into a situation where there was mass famine. There was, horrific economic instability. It was a disaster. That's why, I agree that when Putin says that the fall of the Soviet Union was the greatest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century, that's just objectively true because so much of the world population in some form or another was reliant on the Soviet Union. And interestingly, again, as much as we want to say North Korea was a puppet of the USSR or whatever, there was actually a lot of hesitation from North Korea, the DPRK, because they were worried that they would end up becoming a colony in all but name of Russia. So they developed a more sovereign economy, which is part of the reason why, one, they're still around today, and two, they had such a strong economy was because the main backbone that they got from the Soviet Union was their crude oil imports. Wow. And they had a very strong command economy that they could develop outside of that. And now, with things being what they are, it's sort of what Khrushchev ended up doing after World War II when the Soviet economy was decimated. A black market is more or less allowed to exist in the DPRK because otherwise they're just, the classical problem of any command economy is your light industry is going to be neglected because you focus on the heavy armaments to make sure you can defend yourself from the capitalist world. So the way a lot of DPRK citizens got their, soft commodities for a long time was through the black market, which the state more or less allowed to exist.
Which we saw. We started the conversation by saying that you see time and time again, right? That you see people who are under the pressure of imperialism having to defend themselves by turning to what we would consider immoral, illegal activities.
Right.
Which it's all subjective, really.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of fascinating. And this is the reason why China said that we're doing socialism with Chinese characteristics. Mm-hmm. If everybody has their own flavor of it, people's state autonomy apparently is important. What's the difference between the Trotskys and all the communists are always arguing with each other? What's the difference here?
It's so funny because I don't have a set answer for you because there isn't really one. Like Trotskyism has gone through so many iterations and so many like regional variations. I think one person put it the best way is Trotsky was important. Trotskyism is inconsequential. And Trotsky, the man, was an arrogant opportunist, but also a very brilliant theoretician. The whole idea of uneven and combined development is his, for example. He did make very great contributions during the Russian Revolution. He was instrumental in beating back the White Army during the Russian Civil War, although a large part of that was really because he just reinstated Tsarist military officers, but had the great foresight of establishing people's commissars to make sure that they were politically, aligned with them. But his criticism of the main breaking point, and frankly, this is where every leftist critique of the Soviet Union still emerges today, is he said the Soviet Union had become, under Stalin, a degenerated bureaucratic worker state. Now, again, you can make a case that bureaucracy was excessive in the Soviet Union, but again, it comes the question of what exactly was the alternative. Because another main point that Trotsky had was that the peasantry of the Soviet Union, which was most of Russia at the time, was politically backward and could never be integrated into the communist project. Whereas Lenin and Stalin understood the peasantry was an important piece that you couldn't just sidestep entirely. So it was Trotsky's sort of hatred of the peasantry that really set him apart from the Bolsheviks. Now, and this is why I say that Trotskyism as a world system is so hard to define, is because the split between Trotsky and the Marxist-Leninist camp, Trotskys say they're Marxist-Leninists, but I mean, they're Trotskyists. They were born out of very specific political and strategic disagreements at the time of the early Bolshevik Revolution that don't really have any bearing in today's world. But I will say, a scholar I know who spent a lot of time studying Venezuela has said that the split within the Maduro government, the split within the Bolivarian Revolution today is more or less the same as the Stalin camp and the Trotsky camp during the Russian Revolution, in that Stalinists, quote unquote, within like the Maduro camp, also say that we need to focus on, developing our economy, developing our industry, making sure that we can have a sovereign economy to beat back imperialism and, basically unleash capitalism when we need to harness the forces of production. Whereas the Trotskyists in that camp have a lot of criticisms, but that's it. Just criticism.
No plan.
Right. No plan. No working, viable alternative. And again, that's not to say the criticisms don't have any merit. It's just that what is the alternative? And they don't really have a good answer for that. So in the West today, Trotskyism is really just people who are communists who think that the Russian Revolution was great until Stalin stepped in. And even in other communist projects, whether they be Cuba or, China, both during the Mao period and today, I don't want to generalize too much, but they also say, well, like I remember being at a conference one time and some trot from an org came up. He was totally Western. He was just some white dude. He was like, well, by the way, the Chinese Revolution was really a nationalist revolution. And it's like, well, no, that's just objectively not true. It was the nationalists were explicitly fighting the communists. But anyway.
People get caught in the words and what they think that means to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Like Trotskyism, it's the guiding light for a lot of communist orgs in the West today, but has it ever...
Look, I can see it as a symbolic thing that this guy was a cynic, obviously, and had, wanted to criticize anything. And on the other hand, Stalin just went ahead and did whatever worked, even if there was, like, they were sending off, gross tonnage just for the sake of sending off gross tonnage so that they could fill in their quotas.
Right.
It's not great. Right. It's not great, but it is.
No.
It's a morally better system, and it poises you to do much, much better, faster, and have long-term planning. It's a better system, but still primitive in those days. But nevertheless, I mean, they're two sides of the same coin. You sort of need these two kind of behaviors at some point. There's two sides of the dialectical thing where one is analyzing and being like, oh, this is all fucked up. And the other one is saying, well, let's just duct tape it together and see what happens. And that's kind of, you need both. So I always thought, when I learned about it, I said, I get both, but the people who follow the Trotsky guys seem to be a little bit more lost.
They are. Well, that's because, they only love and lionize revolutions that have failed because they never developed to the point where they could make mistakes.
It's not pragmatic. Like, it's not pragmatic, and it doesn't live in reality and expect reasonable results they're waiting for something to happen, and that's not a strategy.
And there's also this sort of delusion within the historically ignorant Western left that if Trotsky had come to power, the Soviet Union wouldn't have seen all the, hardships and bloodshed, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, Trotsky was advocating for a lot of the same industrial policies that Stalin ended up enacting. It's just that, now, and this is also interesting. If anybody here hasn't, go listen to the Pros of the Roundtables podcast about the Stalin years. Part of the reason the purges happened was because there was a Trotskyist element within the Soviet military that wanted to start enacting these terrorist acts against the USSR. And for a long time, Western scholarship said it was all because of forced confessions, but we have newly released declassified evidence from confessions from these, plots, these would-be plotters, these would-be terrorists who did say that they were in contact with various Trotskyist circles who wanted to spark an internal revolution against Stalin. Now, does that justify what happened in the purges? No. Does that mean that it was Stalin just arbitrarily, out of some paranoia, megalomania, killing everybody wantonly? Also, no. The purges are far more, as bloody and horrible as they were, that is a more complex picture than that. But
a little bit just justifies it just a little bit, where you think, okay, I understand, I get it.
It did come. People. It came from a real place. On the, from above, it was because there was fear of a real Trotskyist insurgency from the top. From below, it was a lot more menial shit. Like, scholars who are not communist in any way, shape, or form have written some really interesting papers about how, like, in some cases, it was really just people reporting others for either because they didn't like their boss at the factory and they said they were counter-revolutionary, or there was some official who was a drunkard who they wanted to just get rid of.
Dude, implementing communism for the first time is like building a bicycle out of, like, sticks and stones and stuff.
Yeah.
You're gonna fall down a few times. It's gonna, right. It's gonna be bad.
And that's where a lot of Western leftists, like, again, they latch on to Trotsky's criticisms because they want to wait for the perfect people who have never participated in this kind of state building process before. Have nothing but criticisms because they have never had to do it. They cannot conceive of a world like there's that whole thing about politics is the art of never making everybody happy. It's the exact same thing if you're building a revolutionary government of any strain.
It's a softness of the human condition that they just have never been in a situation where they've had to actually just do something on the fly, improvise, be under pressure, and get shit done and know what it means to get shit done. And they're waiting for something. If it's not perfect, it's not worth doing. Right. So let's just do nothing. Right. I don't like that. I don't like that. I think I met some of those kind of guys. Sit on your hands type leftists.
Yeah. Well, no, not sit on your hands. Use your hands to write a lot of tweets and Substack articles. But
when it comes to boycotting Pepsi, Pizza Hut, Coca-Cola and stuff, that's too hard.
Right. That's
stuff
too
like that.
That's too extreme. I mean, I think, the Western left is a non-entity for many reasons, but it's also because, like, no one's studying history in earnest. No one is actually studying, history or the reason why, another reason, like Cold War historiography, everything we know about Stalin, we really just copy and paste from Trotsky's criticisms, even when they're just objectively not true. Like Stalin was, even the CIA admitted Stalin was never this all-powerful singular entity that just governed the USSR at his own whims. Like they always said, he was one big piece of a very broad democratic structure that he couldn't actually override if he wanted to. He tried, they tried to get him to resign many times, or he tried to resign many times, and they kept telling him no. And like the Constitution, the Stalin Constitution was made with very heavy input from the local population. And one of my favorite bits about that Sheila Fitzpatrick, I think, or Katerina Lom, some historian, some non-communist historian of the USSR said this. The Stalin Constitution, one of the reasons it actually one of the grievances the USSR population had with the Stalin Constitution was that it expanded the right of habeas corpus. Because in the countryside, it was very hard for Soviet officials to actually get there. A lot of times it was just a single party official on a bicycle going through all these dirt roads from like the nearest city center to these villages to
Oh
oversee a
man.
trial. So if you had a counter-revolutionary guy who just wanted to shoot somebody, the peasants could just deal with them in a swift manner. So when the Stalin Constitution actually expanded the right to a fair trial, these peasants who were like, no, wait a minute, no, that doesn't work for us, pal. Like, we can't wait on some judge to come here.
We got a system. It works.
Yeah.
Wow, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Which is
Russia
also. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Russia's huge. That's all.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And what's interesting too is China, even though it's made great strides in developing the countryside and eradicating extreme poverty. That is one of the criticism that is fair about the Deng Xiaoping reforms is it did create a rural underclass with these reforms and try to proletarianize.
Still kind of does, yeah.
Right. And now they've made great strides in improving this happens it happened the same in India too, which is why one of the only good things Chomsky has ever said was that capitalist India had more deaths than communist China did in the exact same period of time. Like more people have been killed as a result of the industrialization in capitalist India. Wow. And when you proletarianize a country, when you develop a country, you do have to sort of release the pressure valve because there is this mass flight to the cities, and it does create brain drain and all these other socioeconomic problems in the world. But
it funnels economics more concentrated. It ends up concentrating it more. And this was what's so impressive about what Mao did, was to give the exact opposite end of the spectrum, that benefit of the doubt, and see what happened. But do you think do you think that there's any merit to the Chinese system or the Deng's reforms? I mean, obviously, given a more meritocracy-based thing, you paying they got billionaires over there.
They do, but I think the main difference between the US and China is the billionaires are not the ones writing the policies. At the end of the day,
that's why I'm comfortable with it. I think,
right.
And this is the best we can do. And you have a system that's on display. It seems appealing.
It is. And I know that a lot of, intellectually lazy people will say, oh, because China has billionaires, it is just as capitalist as the US. That is just fundamentally not true. I think, Deng Xiaoping introduced the most effective economic model of the late 20th century, in that China has gone from, even because under Mao, it was said that there was an egalitarianism of poverty, right? Like it was the Chinese Communist Party said, we need to give the Chinese people a better life. Like we can't just have everybody living in these communes forever, which, I mean, if you want to make a historical analog, it's sort of like the debate in the early American years between Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton, where Jefferson envisioned the U.S. as just this republic of white landowning farmers who made all the decisions, whereas Hamilton had the foresight to say, that's a fucking dumb idea. We need to industrialize or we will always be behind.
You want to hear something crazy? You want to hear something absolutely nuts? So I looked up. I was trying to figure out. My wife goes, what's the difference between ounce? Like, why would you measure things in ounces? Because what is that? Because then I remember it's like, oh yeah, there's fluid ounces and then there's liquid ounces. And then I started doing this research, and then it goes back to Thomas Jefferson. Why the American imperial system still exists today, even though it's totally stupid, and that these were systems that were born out of medieval England at a long time ago, that were based on nonsense, like, hectares versus acres, and ounces versus what else? A furlong and shit like this. These all came out of these backwards side. Well, in Thomas Jefferson's day, he was waiting on a guy to bring the metric system on a ship. He was like, oh, the metric system guy is going to be here soon. And we'll run all the factories on the metric system since it's way smarter. Dude got in a shipwreck, didn't make it, got blown off course or something, never showed up. And so Thomas Jefferson goes, We'll build the fucking factories anyway. We'll use the old methods. And then they never changed. They had every opportunity to change. And I looked at this, and I'm like, and there was other things about it. I go, this is so stupid. What a
Wait, so
stupid country. Then they've had 150, 200 years to change it. Fuck, didn't do anything.
so there was no other like metrics guy that Jefferson could have just tapped to be like, oh, sorry, the other guy got lost at sea. Can you like there was just no
Yeah.
other way to network
Send another
around your
guy.
mind?
He couldn't like tweet him or something. It wasn't those things. Dude. Yeah, that blows my mind. It was
insane.
that's
I
all
never
it
that's
took.
really I never knew that. Okay, that's why. Huh.
Yeah.
Jefferson was a
There's
weird guy for a lot of reasons, but
yeah, slave owner, sexual molester of children, I think.
yeah.
Your typical American elitist from
I
then on out.
haven't really come very far in
No.
250 years. There's something to be said about how, like the communist revolutionaries were professional revolutionaries. They were like Lenin was living in poverty amongst the peasantry in exile in Siberia as he was studying and synthesizing his theories. Jefferson was able to think and write because he didn't actually have to work a day in his life. Like he was doing it because he had slaves doing everything for him.
Yeah, and whether these guys will do anything and invent like Ayn Rand and everything, and these kind of people, and the Thomas Sowell and stuff, is
Yeah.
they'll create an entire, fraud, based narrative that's with Thomas Sowell. It's just word soup, and with Ayn Rand,
Yeah.
it's like sci-fi dressed up as like anger towards the Soviet Union.
What didn't Jean Paul Sartre say that the worst things the Soviet ever did was give Ayn Rand an education?
Yeah, I mean, and an angry. What wasn't she on like food stamps at the end of her life too?
She collected Social Security at the end of her life. After, by the way, telling her niece who was in dire financial straits that she was not going to give her any money because she didn't owe her anything just because she was her blood relative. She then, a few years later, went on to collect. I mean, it's also funny when people still idolize Ayn Rand because you don't even have to look on Google to just see how much of a racist she was.
Oh yeah, the Wikipedia they didn't spare her at all. I go there frequently just to make sure she's still a cunt, and yeah,
to make sure the Rand bots haven't
taken over. This happens, and then you get the Thomas Sowell's words of wisdom. It's like, why does YouTube think I want to see this?
There are two anecdotes I want to share. One is I remember I was hiking here in LA, and it was a very high pass. I just get up to this pass, and there's a bridge. And on that bridge is a QR code. And the top says, read the wisdom of Thomas Sowell. And I was like, what? How did you get here? First of all. Second of all, I was at a local bookshop somewhere in, like tiny town New England. And there's this guy arguing with the book. I don't know if he's the owner or what. And he's like, yeah, so I'm just curious as to why you have Ayn Rand's writings in fiction when they should be in the philosophy section.
Ooh.
And then the guy behind the counter was like, if you have ever read philosophy, you know that Ayn Rand is not a philosopher. And then he's like, but the guy, there's just this really funny like debate between this, Rand head. I don't know what you call them. Like the people who and what's also funny is the people who say things like, oh, it's basic economics. It's like, no, Thomas Sowell actually he just tells you he just gives you all the dogma of the free market and tells you it's basic economics. For most of the history of the field of economics, that is no one's ever said that shit.
He's the master of the straw man, which he said, and false equivalencies. He'll say, all these welfare people, they want equivalence of outcome, but when really what leftists are saying is equivalence of opportunity, saying that you have the same starting point, not the same ending point. And this is one of the masterful ways that he sneaks out of being a human being. Yeah, and then playing the race card when it suits him, and then disregarding the race card when it's inconvenient, saying the race doesn't matter. And then somebody's like, well, studies say that black people. It's like, what do you know about black people? I'm black.
Well, it's funny because someone made a very interesting. I think it was one of Ha-Joon Chang, one of the Korean economist who does really good work on breaking down the different schools of thought. He said that Adam Smith has more in common with Marx, just from a purely like theoretical standpoint, than like Thomas Sowell does. Because when we talk about the field of economics, until the marginalist revolution, political economy and economics were not two separate fields. It was understood that class and social relations are an inextricable part of economics 101. You can't just divorce them entirely. You can't just write it off. Whereas like, you get the libertarians and the people who are econ and business majors in the Western world who reduce everything down to like mathematical proofs. I mean, it's really just a field that's meant to enrich the business class. But
it was an invented philosophy to pass along and do the word soup that's necessary to convince swaths of the population to privatize, to funnel money. Thatcher taking the Milton Friedman book and tapping on it and saying, "This is what we believe in," carrying it in her purse and stuff. That was their golden ticket to
right.
Extracting that wealth and putting us where we are now. And I don't know if they're not really regretful, or that did they understand that they fucked everything up, but they don't care. Sergey Brin just paid $57 million to fight a tax the California. He moved to Nevada. He lost the thing, so he moves to Nevada and says, "I escaped socialism.
Yeah,
I fled socialism."
Nevada is about to become like the California billionaire class what like Miami was for the Cuban plantation owners.
Yeah,
it's like, well, the In-N-Out family also fled California. The Snyders, the In-N-Out dynasty. Do you know what In-N-Out is?
No, yeah, that's an In-N-Out burger.
Okay, yeah, I forget where you're from in the U.S.
There's a line around the corner. Well, I traveled all over, so I lived in California for a long time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In order to survive, what we would do, because we were homeless and we were musicians and we never worked, and so we would just go to drive-thrus, and we would go to In-N-Out Burger or McDonald's, and you just go up to the drive-thru speaker and say, "We called earlier on the phone. We were missing a hamburger or two," and then we, 80% of the time they'd just give us a free hamburger, and we'd split it 4 ways. Yeah. I love In-N-Out Burger. They have the little potato machine. You put the potatoes in and they come out and then they fry them up.
It's one of the last vestiges of, we're getting off topic here, but it is one of the last vestiges of like the car culture of California where you could just drive up. Like it was like one of the drive up, establishments where the whole thing was, you can go and drive up into your car and they'll serve you the food. Like they still have that. Like this will ask you, is this for here? Is this for like to go, or are you going to be eating in the car tonight? Like when you go to the drive.
Oh, it's like with a Sonic drive-in, stuff like that, where they bring they used to have roller skates. They come out on roller skates and shit. I remember that. Well, my mom worked fast food her whole life. And then she ended up getting together with one of the owners of a Dairy Queen. So she fell in love with her boss, 20 years older. So I grew up in a Dairy Queen, eating hot dogs. So I know that old 50s summertime Americana vibe,
Yeah, I'm still a sucker for it. That's the most, consumerist thing about me is that
when they turn them into veggie burgers, I'm there all the time. I'm always I'm shameful like that. I still have my guilty pleasures.
They're good though.
I have shameful shit. I'll tell the truth. This is horrible to say. I watch Seinfeld still, and it's not because it's funny, and it's not because I like the people that are in the show. It's because the noise of it is so nostalgic and so pure that it calms me. It's like a meditative ambiance in the background that I play, and it just reminds me of being a kid.
I've been using a lot of Pluto TV. Do you have that?
Yeah.
I love Pluto because it's the same thing. I don't actually actively watch what I put on there, but there's just something so nostalgic about being to watch something from the 90s and you still have commercial breaks.
Yeah.
Like, and it's
There,
free. It's free.
there's one. There's you got to check this one out. It's channel 42. It's called Horrible Home Video, and it's like every night. It's like 9 hours of sci-fi shows. So it's like Twilight Zones from the 80s,
Mhm.
Tales from the Crypt from the 80s. I mean,
Oh
there's a lot
yeah.
of screaming and stuff in it, but it's I love it. I love it. It's good. It's a good mix to put on before bed.
I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Is as things so rapidly deteriorate here, there's a lot of I personally am craving nostalgia. Like I
Yeah, yeah.
crave just watching videos
Dude,
from the
I watch
90s.
90s commercials. I'll
Yeah,
put on
same.
they have the hour of 90s commercials. I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
remember that.
It's
I
so
remember that.
like it's just someone saying nostalgia is a hell of a drug. That's why MAGA is effective messaging. It's true. It's
Yeah,
literally it's that South Park episode with the member berries.
I remember. I'm gonna
Ow.
kill you, remember? Oh
But
yeah, I remember.
it's true because there's just things are so bleak here right now that I don't know where to turn to for relief. Like I don't drink, I don't smoke.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I don't have a vice. I work out, of course, but that's like that's not gonna last long term. So like sometimes I do the same thing you do, Chris. I will just put on an hour of like 90s commercials or something. I so bad. Last week I looked up how much it would be to buy a VCR. And like VHS tapes.
Yeah, now you're nostalgic and you have some extra money.
Right. Well, yeah, that's the other thing. I saw how much they'd be, and I'm like, oh god, no, I can't afford that. I can't
Dude, they
afford that.
were they were free maybe 10 years ago, and now they're vintage appliances that cost.
Well, because now the market has swung the other way, where people want that. Like, there's this whole new market now for the TVs we had. I forget what they were called. People claimed that they had a more because of their model with the mirror. Something you can look it up. RTVs, CTVs, something like that. Where it was supposedly a brighter picture. It wasn't. 4K is objectively a brighter picture, but there's just the illusion of like the comfort of that glow.
Ah, funny.
I forget what it
Oh,
was called, but
well,
they're going
you
for
remember
$500 now.
well when you turn on the TV, it clicks and then
Yeah.
the tube starts buzzing,
Yes.
and this humming glow
Mhm.
that always stays active for the entire time the TV's on, and that yeah, and this is I'm a big music guy, film guy. That's a specific sound that now people they record digitally and then they run it back to tape in order to get this sound out of it. And yeah, I don't think for me, I'm never gonna like new music because it sounds like shit. Because I like it warm and organic and analog with that hum of it's on. The
Well,
TV turned on,
it feels more human that way, I think. Ironically, when you can hear the machine, it feels more human, whereas now like AI music channels are blowing up on YouTube and like the singers are perfectly on key, the instruments
Yeah.
all sound
It's
in perfect
too
sync, but
it's
we're
too
losing.
perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
We
This one this one's for you.
I don't know how you do it. I put together some really impressive deals. But this thing you've pulled off, it's amazing. A big and tasty for just $1? How do you do it? What's your secret?
Got a buck? You're in luck. Because you can get a delicious beefy big and tasty, a McChicken sandwich, and lots of your other favorites on McDonald's Dollar Menu every day.
Together, Grimace, we could own this town.
Oh, from a different time.
Let's pick apart all the reasons why that commercial is hilarious now.
First of all, Trump this is in his element. This was the only thing he was ever good at, let's say, being in this commercial. The thing he might be qualified to do. Grimace, come on. Yeah.
But also
Yeah.
the fact that he would eventually develop a McDonald's addiction. One, if you were to tell somebody from that commercial that guy is not only going to be the president, McDonald's is going to be all he eats because one, he has the brain of a child. Two, he's paranoid about being poisoned. So like that is all he eats now is McDonald's. And I think part of the reason he's going is he racked his brain with getting COVID in 2020, and 2, like all he eats now is McDonald's.
I think that there's a lot of people over 50 in America that are just the same way. I think the sugar and fat or whatever pickled their brain.
I read something so interesting. I didn't click on the article. I need to find it. That the food that we eat is now less nutritious than what our grandparents had.
Yes, this is absolutely true. I did this article a while back, and it was since 1950 we've lost upwards, depending on the produce, up to 50% of the nutritional content within it. Meaning, and this is largely because of the soil. The soil is not the soil is the delivery mechanism for the nutrients. So it goes from and that's the thing, we're playing catch up with the soil. We're depleting it with fungicides and herbicides and pesticides and chemical fertilizers, and we're not rotating the crops enough, and we're growing big fields of them, and we're hauling in the pollinators to pollinate the plants. And what's happening is we're driving tractors over it, and the tractors are squashing the nematodes and the beneficial microbiology that are in the soil. And B12 was something that was in the soil for a long, long time naturally. And when the animals ate the food from the land, that the B12 uptake went into the meat, and we ate the meat and we got the B12. But now the B12 is getting so bad that you can get it from meat, but now they're having to give livestock B12 shots. So it all leads back to the soil and the fact that the soil isn't getting what it needs to properly have its proper natural cycle. So I interviewed the late great Dr. Elaine Ingham. She's the one that discovered the soil food web, which was the thing that where she basically outlines that it is a web of all this life in the soil, which actually creates the food. And that food itself is actually a byproduct of fungi. And without fungi delivering the nutrients through these webs that it creates underground, mycorrhizal nets, that the food that we have can't really exist or be, created. And so what we do is we go down to Brazil and we level the rainforest, and because it's rich in nutrients, it's got leaves of humic acid from years of dense plant coverage, leaves falling down and stuff. And I can't believe I can remember all this. And this is what my wife does for a living.
Okay.
And then, mow it down, grow soybeans until they absolutely nuke the soil yet again, and then feed those soybeans to cattle and then lose calories during that process. But yeah, the soil is cooked. I forgot why we were talking about this.
Well, I just have one follow-up question then. Is there a way to reverse the damage to the soil in the US, or are these forever chemicals, or do we not even know?
Well, bro, the whole sustainable agriculture buzzword that flew around for the last 15 years, it's a real thing. It can be done. You can do it. Lots of different things have the ability to revitalize the soil, but one of the most important things is nitrogen, and nitrogen is what grows most of the leafy growth. Phosphorus is what you need to bloom a lot of plants, and potassium is the other thing that you need. So when you get chemical fertilizers, it's an NPK, right? Nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus or NPK. What did I say? Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Yeah, K is potassium. And best thing you can do is grow fucking beans. Like legumes take nitrogen out of the air through the process and then give it down, digest it, but then put it back into the soil. If we became a society of legume eaters, lentils, beans, different kinds of pulses, we would have a decent shot at regenerating the soil more easily. But right now, I think the amount of people that we have on Earth, we are stuck to the yields, to be focusing on yields, where China even, here's the funny part, socialists hate this, that because the market is actually working in favor of sustainable agriculture because the people in the United States are really hip to it. And so the United States actually got a head start with some of this stuff. China was still prioritizing yields and hasn't caught on fully. They do have, in the next 5 years, they're really switching to vegan agriculture. They're trying to do more sustainable agriculture. They will surpass the United States. We know this. But the United States had a jump on them in that they were, one of the things is not tilling the agriculture. Don't go in there and rip it all up because that releases a bunch of carbon and it destroys the structural integrity of the dirt, which is part of the reason why it's so good is because these microbes have it just the way they like it. And you go in there with a tractor, squash it, and then till it. What you're doing is you're like killing all the mycorrhizae, you're killing all the beneficial insects. So in order, you would want to rewild. And in Germany, they're good about crop rotation. They will rewild a section for a few seasons. They'll say, or a few seasons, and they'll let something just grow there, and then won't really, the pigs will come and tear it up and stuff. And this is smart. And this is really the only way to do that. One of the reasons forests are so tempting is because leaves, out of all the garden compost and everything, that fertilizers that you can use, leaves from trees have 90% of them are nitrogen when they're broke down. So it's an incredible fertilizer on its own. But we need to have smaller fields. That's the thing. We need smaller fields with a diversity of crops, but we also need the industrial mechanization to do that, because a tractor, it's easy. You just I'm going doing corn, and I'm going to do a whole bunch of corn, and that's easy. You need a few clip-on additions to your tractor to make that happen. But if you're growing a row of beans and a row of lettuce, and you need manual labor, or you need a robot that comes around and does that. And China is working on that. They have electric tractors, and they're lightweight, and laser systems that take care of weeds. Pew, pew, pew. Fascinating shit is on the horizon, but John Deere is too busy making planned obsolescence and making it so you have to punch in a 4-digit code when you're seriously. Cory Doctorow told me that motherfuckers are driving down. We're waiting for the John Deere guy from corporate to come in his Prius to drive down a long dirt road to punch in a 4-digit code on a John Deere tractor simply because they need to switch out a part or something like this. Total vendor lock-in, sadistic, late-stage capitalist bullshit.
I thought Biden passed a right to repair act. That was like one of the only things he did that. Oh, okay.
I don't know. I actually don't know.
Okay.
That's me being skeptical.
I'm sure the corporations found a way around that, but that's so crazy. But I guess that the need for industrial agriculture being for sustainable agriculture, that's a paradox I think a lot of ecologists in the US wouldn't be able to grasp. But yeah, it reminds me of how when the USSR during collectivization, they literally invited like farmers, but especially black farmers from like Alabama and Georgia to come and teach the peasants how to work tractors. Like, that's just insane to me.
Crazy.
And again, with those techniques, the USSR Russia went from having famines to being food sovereign. Like, it's same with China. I mean, as much as historically literate people say, communism is when no food. It's no, communism is what ends famines. Yep. Communism is just objectively what creates more. You make bread and pancake and hamburgers out of literally nothing but lentils.
Who's this?
Someone in the comments said, "Did you know that you can make bread and pancakes and hamburgers out of literally nothing but lentils? No grains involved."
Yes, I did. What do we got? A vegan in the comments? Awesome. Dr. Douglas Graham. Well, check that out. Grain damage.
Well, even now when you go to the grocery store, there's like lentil pasta, like protein pasta, which
Yeah, I'm not like no carb or anything, but we are organic bread because what happens in the bread making process is they spray down glyphosate on the end of the process in order to wilt it and to like
Mm,
kill it off faster. It makes it so it doesn't. I did think there's no mold to it. It makes it hinders mold,
mm,
something like this. But they do use glyphosate, and this is a patented antibiotic. It's not the, there's a lot of hubbub about it. Some people say it gives you non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Personally, I believe all the hype. I've seen lots of studies. The EFSA and these other, the FDA, they say it's safe, but a bunch of other independent studies say that it gives you a myriad of different things, and it also kills bees and does all
mm.
this other stuff. So I'm not really sold on it, but they spray it on the bread in Europe for a laugh, basically, just to get the process done, to give it I don't know, it's something to like finish it.
So the same
Yeah,
Europe that bans like American candies and sodas from entering the EU because of all the artificial shit
yeah,
sprays, something that can give you debilitating diseases.
and they're reversing a lot of the older stuff. Like they're letting in more of that stuff now.
But
But we
why?
know because it's well, up until recently, I think that we'll probably decouple from the United States quickly if
Yeah,
we can, and once we
yeah.
realize that the security guarantees aren't there. We'll lose the economic stuff. But like before, 5 years ago, like letting in stuff that was in Skittles or stuff, my wife saw it coming. She was like, "All this junk food's coming over here now, and all the stuff with the funny colors and the funny additives."
Not like red dye
Um,
40.
yeah, E20 or whatever it is, and stuff. And on the flip side, there's two things in the United States that you can't get that Europeans have, which is one is real blue cheese. Like you can't really get real blue cheese in the United States, and you also can't get Laugen, which is lye on bread, which they make Laugen rolls here, and it's basically they just a lye preparation that makes the bread brown, and you guys can't have that. Which
Really?
you're not missing out. It's nothing special,
Okay.
but you can't be trusted with that because you might poison people or something. I don't
But
know.
but what about why the blue cheese ban? Like
Because
what's
it's moldy, and I think in my mind, in my twisted mind, I think that the United States is too far spread out. That by the
yeah.
time you get the blue cheese from 20 miles to the next town, downstate, that it'll go
It'll
bad
have
and
gone
kill
from
somebody.
edible mold to inedible mold.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know. Little differences. One of the things I'll say about Europe, though, when you go to the train stations, they still treat you like an adult. They give you a real fork, a metal fork, and a real espresso cup
Mm.
and shit. They don't give you like a plastic thing and styrofoam bowl to eat your shit out of. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we're going to talk about comparing the train infrastructure in Europe to the U.S., I think
Yeah.
the superiority expands beyond just the silverware you get. I
I was
remember.
always I was always so poor that when I came, that all the like the train station sandwiches here are just amazing, and they're pretty cheap. Like they're reasonable, and I just fell in love with them. And my wife is like, "You're such a peasant. Like you love
Hey,
like, I'll
you
take
go
whatever I can get."
you take the Amtrak in the U.S., you're going to pay $20 for a microwavable pizza
Oh
that will
yeah,
like
yeah.
it'll be like, oh, one cheese pizza, and the guy will literally just like open up the freezer, take the pizza out of the box, microwave it in the box, and then you have like that's been my experience on Amtrak. Whereas,
Oh dude, I went to France like a year ago, and they got a bar car on long journey things in France and in
uh,
bar. So I just get drunk. I hate traveling and I hate being in public. I've been homeless for too long. I'm like, I hate being in public. I'm naked. Uh, I just get drunk. I go to the bar car and I get me a beer and a little sandwich or something, and it's wonderful.
see, America, look at what you're missing.
Ah, it's terrible. Once you live anywhere else, and it's stupid. This is what liberals say. They're like, Europe is better. It is. It's better in a lot of ways. Where I'm like, I became a different person when I came here because as a poor person, if you're rich, maybe you got health care, whatever.
Yeah.
I had to get teeth removed and shit. So I was happy to be in a country that I was taken care of.
I mean, any American would gladly hop a boat, right? Any American who is not MAGA, a MAGA diehard, would do anything to get out of this country right now.
Dude, those MAGA motherfuckers are going to be going over the border of Mexico to get their tumors removed and get their insulin here soon.
They already do. I'm not kidding. In San Diego, like I'm trying to remember the name of the Mexican city. I think it might be it's either Tijuana or Mexicali, where like they have the nicest, even though the area around it can be kind of poor, they have the nicest hospitals because Americans just cross the border there to get routine surgeries done because it's so much cheaper. Like the Mexico, because it's free, Mexico, like people already do that in Southern California. They will drive. Like I know people who have gotten their eyes fixed in Mexico, people who've gone to the like vet care, pet care is booming in Tijuana because it's so much more affordable. Americans will just take their dogs or their cats, drive to Tijuana, get it done there. But if you live far away from either Canada or Mexico, you don't have that option. Like if you live in rural middle America, you have to drive. I remember, I know someone I can't believe I'm saying this. Someone I know had to get a really important surgery done. It was very urgent in Mississippi. It was canceled because all of the surgical tools had been contaminated. And that was the only hospital for miles. So there was no option for them to like transfer the patient to another place. They just had to wait a couple more weeks for them to disinfect everything.
Like a couple weeks, like you put it in the autoclave for 2.5 hours and you could have clean instruments.
I don't know. That's the other thing when like everyone says, socialized medicine, they have to wait days to get things done. It's like, no, that's you're no better off here. Like it takes you months to get in with a specialist and depending on where you are, even if it's life-saving surgery, you have to wait weeks. If you're in the wrong place, there's just one fuck up, contaminated surgical tools. There's nothing you can do about it.
Look, Cubans live 2 years longer than the United States, and they're fucking broke as fuck, and they have more doctors per capita than any other country on earth. And I just don't know, like we had some comrades in our circle, some of people we know online. They went to Cuba recently, and I just wonder what is it like? It's probably pretty nice.
I mean, I feel like never having to worry about getting sick or
basics.
Basics. Now, you were living under a crippling sanctions regime that has been installed since the state was born. But I mean, like you said, the fact that even under a medieval style siege, they still enjoy better health outcomes.
Like compared to Mississippi, for instance.
Right. Compared to Mississippi. If you were to take out the people who, like, I remember watching an interview with Michael Eisner, the former CEO of Disney. His dad had a health emergency. So he called, I think it was Cedars-Sinai, because he was on the board of Cedars-Sinai. So he was able to call the hospital and get his dad seen that day, purely because he was on the board for the hospital. If you're not, I mean, good luck. I mean, and that's even if you can afford it. And that's, I mean, when we talk about, that's the other reason I think why so many Americans are politically disengaged is universal health care is so widely popular amongst Republicans and Democrats and independents. It's literally only the smallest and most privileged faction of the U.S. population that one is either dumb enough to buy like the think pieces that the healthcare lobbies, healthcare company lobbies actually put out, and two, the people who materially benefit from this in some way, like Ted Cruz being, getting money from healthcare lobbyists.
What is it? It's insurance, hospitals, doctors, pharmaceutical companies, and a handful of these politicians. Yeah, I guess that's all it takes, and that's totally fucked up. That's you can't get what you want, even if it's like 60, 70, 80% of you want it.
And that's what I mean when you asked me earlier about what, China having billionaires. It's like, well, yeah, but the difference is these guys, there's no billionaire lobby in China. Like at the end of the day, every 5 years, the Communist Party looks at all the economic data, sets out a plan for targeted development, where to release the pressure valve on certain industries, where to ramp up production on others, what to do about health outcomes in the country. Every single day, an American politician's only job is to listen to what the donors and the lobbyists are telling them to do.
Yeah.
But Americans
And
think it's democratic because they get to choose who gets to listen to the lobby.
and China is listening to their experts, right? They're
Right.
listening to the people and say, well, you're an expert in this, so you can make decisions. What should we do? And then they integrate that into the 5-year plan. They don't say, well, we have a certain ideology and we don't need expertise. We have
Right.
our religious views or whatever.
I saw a tweet. RFK Jr. went on some podcast with some health influencer that talked about the humors in your body, as if we're going back to like Pliny's age. And
I've got the vapors. I need some smelling salts.
And someone was saying like China or Cuba is developing a vaccine for cancer, as the top health department in the US is talking about, humor, like they're reviving humorism. There's that saying of, in China, you can't change the party, but you can change the policies. In the US, you can change the party, but you can't change the policies. It doesn't require any thorough investigation to prove that is just factually true.
That's where we are, and there's no easy way out of it. It's a machine that's going to eat itself. And it's almost halfway through.
Yeah, maybe more than halfway.
Yeah. It's going to collapse. Like any day now, it's going to collapse. I was just hearing about the Iranian war, the implications, what it'll mean, and all these knock-on effects. Like I wrote an article today, or like I approved this article today.
Yeah.
That was I don't know if you saw it. It was the Gulf State thing.
No, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. This is hilarious. So their whole everything about what there was flimsy to begin with. It was their security apparatus was a sieve. Gulf states knew that it wasn't a good idea to make friends with the U.S., saw the end coming, and has already been moving away and sinking money into Chinese markets and Indian markets.
Well, I mean, that's when.
So it's happening.
The UAE leaving OPEC. I mean.
And it took me a second to get the implications, but it's that they will stop working in a cartel-like fashion to set prices, and they're in a hurry to get rid of the oil as fast as they can because there's a time limit on renewables coming in, and they know that it's a matter of time, and they're going to circumvent whatever the U.S. says. Like they're not going to play by the rules, and they're going to sell it to China, India, whoever needs it.
I mean, and that's again when the U.S. is being held captive by lobbies. We are where we are because like everyone's freaking out about how China's EVs are so much more advanced and so much more affordable and accessible than American EVs. When the rest of the world is moving towards these kind of vehicles, the U.S. just a couple of years ago, it was in a theater in the war on woke. We need to have our gas stoves because God forbid those hoity-toity fruity electric stoves. Like we are being held captive by the oil and gas lobby in this country.
Yeah, and quite successfully too.
Very successfully. There is literally no alternative. We have no hope here. I'm not trying to sound defeatist, but like like when friggin' Nancy Pelosi is calling it the green dream or whatever. quote unquote. Like the world is realizing that 1/3 of the Earth's population is consuming renewable energy and building up the infrastructure for that. When the US of 330 million people is clinging to their gas guzzling cars, which are also more expensive at this point, by the way, than an EV vehicle made in China. Like a new Chevy truck is going to cost you way more than a BYD if you were to just get it in the mainland. Like, you know,
I ain't getting no electric car, man. I ain't gay.
Yeah.
That's about the extent of the thinking that they can do. Well, the thing is that they're in war, that they knew that once they heard about the Green Revolution, they added it up, and they knew now China's got all the solar panels in the world. They have more than they need. They have so many they can't even ship them out.
Right.
And they're leading the country, and then everybody's kind of following suit because it's smart. They saw this coming and they said, we can't even talk about climate change anymore. We have to actively just dismiss all of this because our entire business model is oriented around fossil fuels and military and idiocy, and so they went full bore, full propaganda mode to try to turn, and they did successfully. Gave the boomers the keys that they needed to unlock the door of just not giving a fuck about anything, and giving them a reason to say, yeah, it's all fake, So, because they already didn't want to change, and even if, and the xenophobia is so high that the Chinese electric car, they're probably, out to get you or something, which actually, truly, less planned obsolescence in these fucking cars than American cars. No lock-in subscription features like in Tesla. They don't do that in these Chinese cars.
Well, you actually get to own your car.
Exactly. There's no, you can't not fix it or something. Like, you can fix your own car. They'll help you. It's just amazing. And it's so embarrassing that I was so wrong about China, and that I just repeated the thing that I heard. I said, they're bad because
that's you can be forgiven for, in the age before the internet, that was the only information that any of us got, was China bad, China,
scary.
Yeah, China scary. If you speak out against the leader, you'll get shot in the face in the middle of the street, where it's like, I mean, again, we have the great advantage or disadvantage, being where we are, of being able to just look up what things are like in other countries and realizing just how bad it is here. I also think that, if Trump were smart, he would see just how the Strait of Hormuz is strangling, how just all you have to do is turn off one tap of the world's oil supply and everything can go to shit. But he's instead using this opportunity because he doesn't understand how oil refineries work. He thinks that he can now boost U.S. oil revenues with this.
Or I think he just knows that he can make money off it, and he just invested big into oil. And if you can start a war, you could probably make money. That's part of it.
Yeah.
Here's a quote from your boy. Tell me who said this. We should never pretend to know what we don't know. We should not feel abashed to learn from our subordinates. And we should listen carefully to the views of the cadres at the lower levels. Be a pupil before you become a teacher. Learn from the cadres at the lower levels before you issue orders.
Is that Mao or Xi Jinping?
That's
or
Mao.
Deng Xiaoping. Mao, okay, yeah. That's the thing, is Mao is all about self-criticism. That is the bedrock of every communist, successful communist government, is self-criticism, is realizing what I can do to improve. Whereas, we see how an American politician will respond if you even mildly challenge them for giving unadulterated weapons to Israel. Yeah. Like, they will have you thrown out of their town hall. They will, scream in your face. They'll tell you that you're a shill for China or Qatar, which doesn't even make any sense. Like that, like our politicians hate us passionately. They hate us and they think we're idiots.
Yeah, we're their enemies. We're their enemies.
Right. Like,
I just posted this thing. As I said, the term tanky has basically become the woke of the online liberal. It's a versatile, thought terminating projectile used to shut down any analysis that isn't sufficiently subservient to the State Department. And the ultimate get out of jail free card for people who want to feel progressive without actually challenging the material structures of global capitalism. It's an ad hominem, right? Anything to evade an argument. And this is Ted Cruz, and this is these guys. Is you're stupid for trying to have a logical discussion about anything, and we live in the age of ad hominem.
Right.
Label him to shut him down and make it look like you don't need to engage with him. He's a Russian bot. He's not,
But you want to know what's funny, to tie it back to your question about Trotsky? Even the term tanky is anachronistic because it was created in 1956 by British Trotskyists who basically was used to slander anybody who justified the Russian tanks rolling into Hungary or Prague. I forget where it went. Basically, but at that point, Stalin was dead. But it's what they call Stalinists, quote unquote, when Stalin was long gone when that actually happened. But what's interesting is even in the Prague Spring, for example, similar to what Angie was talking about, it wasn't all these people flooding the streets wishing for Western style capitalism and liberal democracy. They wanted a different form of socialism. That's something we should always keep in mind, is that in the Eastern Bloc, there was a lot of opposition to the governments that were put in place there, but none of them, by and large, wanted a world where capitalism thrived. They wanted just a different form of socialism. So, that's one other thing I want to say about Trotskyists is the most important contribution they made, because British Trotskyism, like Jeremy Corbyn was a Trotskyist. He was part of a lot of Trotskyist groups, like Labor. Yeah, Labor was very influenced by the very strong sect of Trotskyism that existed in the UK at the time. And there was a time before, the McCarthy era where they actually listened to a lot of Marxist, like the government listened to a lot of Marxist economists, because they understood that they knew their shit, that Marxist economics is actually not just totally wrong. It actually has a lot of valuable things to say about how society and industry and labor all work. A lot of them, like Adam Tooze, for example, his grandfather was a Trotskyist who actually spied for the Soviet Union. So Trotskyism, and like Michael Hudson, I think also comes from like a Trotsky school. So I want to amend my previous statement. A lot of economists who really know what they're talking about in the West did come from a Trotskyist tradition. Like the contributions that Adam Tooze and Michael Hudson have made, we can't deny that at all. And John Smith, the guy who wrote that Imperialism in the 21st Century, is also a Trotskyist. So the people who go through the university, wade through all the neoclassical free market bullshit, mainstream teachings, those guys make a lot of valuable contributions. And there are some Trotskyists who are very active in the labor movement still. But I mean, we can't really say Jeremy Corbyn, for all of his positions, we can't really say he's been able to do anything, not necessarily entirely through his own fault. Yep, there he is. There's old Lev, as he was originally called.
Well, you need figures of all types. You even need your John Wayne Gacy's and your Jeffrey Dahmers, at least as an image of somebody not to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's a fascinating guy. He's got, I think it was George Bernard Shaw who said that when Trotsky takes down an opponent, he decapitates him, but opens up his skull, removes his brain to show that there's still a brain there, and then puts his brain back and still says that he's stupid. Like Trotsky, nice. He was a very gifted writer. He was, very good theoretician at times. He was just also very inconsistent and very, very unlikable. A lot of people did not like him. He was very arrogant. Lenin was not an egotistical person at all. He was very humble. He was very personable. Trotsky was the complete opposite. He saw himself as the ultimate maker and shaker of history. He thought that everything he said was gospel. And unfortunately, a lot of his followers still do. The biography of Trotsky that every Trotskyist would tell you to read is literally titled "The Prophet." When this man literally, like, the moment, like, he tried to establish the Fourth International, it collapsed. He tried to overthrow Stalin, it failed. He ended his days in Mexico with an ice pick to his skull. Like,
not a people person. That sounds like what's going to happen to me. I'm just not, friendly enough to make it that far.
No one is going to order your assassination in exile, I would hope. I don't think anyone's going to.
I would be so lucky. I would be so lucky to be that important that somebody was like, we got to get rid of this guy. I'm not worth it.
I mean,
yeah. I was homeless. They do kill homeless people because we're easy to get rid of, but just somewhere in between, not important and not, too important. Somewhere in between would be good.
I mean, the worst thing that could happen to people like us is just like, these tech companies will just kick us off of the platforms that we're on. Like, it'll just be.
It keeps happening. It keeps happening.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Well, look, what do you want to do? You want to come back next week, do it again?
Yeah, of course, always. We're
I
always
love
down
it.
with it.
We got a good thing going. We're going to try to get some more guests, keep it spicy. I don't know what we could, if anybody's got any ideas, we can, try some new stuff. I like Angie. I like you. I think that we'll always bring something new. We'll always learn something new every week. And, but, if we got somebody else, you said Venezuela, Dad, get a Venezuelan over here, get a Chinese person, somebody mix it up, get all kinds of flavors in here, some ideas.
Totally.
Bring on a liberal and we'll harangue them. Do a debate.
I don't know. I'm very proud to say I don't know any liberals anymore.
They navigate around me on the internet until they're like, we want healthcare. I'm like, okay, tell me more.
Right.
And then they're like,
until you quote Mao.
And then I go, Zelensky should win the Nobel Peace Prize. I'm like, oh, okay, no.
Every liberal I know has become, there you go. Every liberal I know has become some variant of a leftist now. I don't know. The people I know now who have pledged their loyalty to the Democratic Party, like this is 2013 or 14, has just dissipated. I don't know anyone who still, worships the ground they walk on anymore, or even trusts them for that matter.
We're making progress then. Mm-hmm. We got a long way to go though. All right, look, we'll sign off to everybody. We'll talk right after this. Goodbye, everybody, and don't let your meatloaf, and thanks for coming.
Thank you.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. May God have mercy on your soul.
I just played that clip for myself.
I was going to say, I don't know what that's from.
That's from some movie, I forget. Some 90s movie. Something nostalgic. All right. What do you want to say before we go?
No, I just thank you, Chima. We got a donation here from the super chat, $10.
Oh wow, that's rare. All right, I'll split it with Adam. I'll split it with the crew.
It's fine.
Honestly, if we get this thing going, we can make it real nice and spicy because I got this restream that cost me $30 a month. They're gouging me. Billy Madison, thank you. Thank you so much.
That tracks for
that just made the $10. Yes, playing more funny clips from movies. Okay, good to know. All right, thanks, Chima. I think it's a South Park reference. Chima. Take it easy.